Look at that. We got a ClevelandMoto podcast. Oh, look at that deliciousness. And then yet again, another Hanukkah miracle.
Nice out.
We have not run out of natter days yet. Cam's got a natter day. I got a natter day.
It's like the fish and the loaves.
It is fishes and loaves, man. Somehow
wait, who's that guy over there?
I don't know.
That's a weird guy over there.
I know he is. Oh, but wait. We do have a surprise for Cam.
It's been waiting
for him.
For what, about a month now? I think a month.
God, that is such a cool hat.
It is a really cool hat.
It's going to go really well with my pit vipers that just came in the mail today.
I thought you'd like that hat.
And my
It's a
wallet.
really bitchin'.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is a cool hat, though. I love
It's
the logo
a really
on
cool
it.
hat. I'm actually going to wear this.
I
a lot.
fucking love that hat. I do.
50 years of hanging left. That's badass.
It's pretty cool.
It's
a
really cool.
fucking cool hat.
I do have a Harley thing I'd like to talk about today if we have time.
And we can do that. Actually, we probably have a couple of Harley things to talk about, so that's nothing wrong with that.
That's imported from
It is.
Portland.
Yeah.
And that really is that is truly an import. So rock on for us.
Thank you. Really cool.
And again, we saw that stuff, and John and I we're having a great time anyway. But it didn't hurt that we saw that stuff, and I was like, we got to steal an extra one of those for Cam.
Swag bag.
Yeah, definitely swag bag. And
You guys rule. Thank you.
There's a patch too. There's a patch and sticker that go with it. I think that are over in the same area. We'll get that to you later.
Thanks.
Yeah,
So
and it's
thank for your Patreon contribution. And
right. Woohoo! So yeah, here we are at ClevelandMoto podcast 269.
Nice.
269. That's fun. That's cool. Nothing
two
wrong
to
with that.
beam up.
Yep, that's it. Double 69. So that's you and three of your best friends. To my immediate left is
Dan Kromke.
and his
Cam Vanderhorst.
and
Johnny Mac.
and
Nick Divitto.
and
Steve Hoffert.
And Steve, Sleepy.
and your humble narrator Phil Waters. And that is the first time ever we've been through the lineup in less than 40 minutes.
I was going to say, it's a record.
Here we go.
All right, we can end it.
All right, on to content.
I was like, how fucking long have I been? Everything's been gone. Everything's different now.
It is, well, we fixed the board. Well, it gets cluttered with fun stuff, but yeah, it was cool. Kromke, what'd you bring for us tonight?
I brought 2 bottles of bourbon,
Yeah, you did.
Noah's Mill and Johnny Drum, and 2 bottles of Slivovitz.
Hey, Slivovitz. Now, wait a second. I did notice there's a difference between the bottles of Slivovitz or Slivovitz. What's the difference?
One's
One is smooth and the other one's
colored one is
lumpy.
made in the Republic of Yugoslavia.
Oh, my.
It's a kind of old bottle.
I like how the fact on the front of the bottle it says 8 years old. However, due to world history, we know that's at least 28 years old, right? Based on the Republic of Yugoslavia. All right, and then what about the ones that's ribbed for her pleasure?
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic.
Jelinek Slivovitz.
Mm-hmm.
How old's that one?
This one,
10 years old.
Yeah,
sometime after the Czechoslovakia.
I was going to say this is truly what we're doing is we're doing former Warsaw Pact liquors for 1,000.
Look at the difference in color too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's great radio, isn't that?
But that was
great.
a gold, so maybe that was.
It is their more unfiltered, or I'm sure they're more.
The 8-year looks like looks kind of like okay. So I'll put it this way: the 8-year bottle looks like day 1 of Vintage Days piss.
Yes, it does.
And that looks like day 3 of Mid Ohio Vintage Days piss.
Day 1 is fresh brake fluid. That one is change of brake fluid. That's
motor
those
oil.
two. Right, that's it. And that one is.
Well, this one is 10 years old.
That's 10 years old when it was put in the bottle.
Yeah.
I assure you, it is a lot older than that.
Speaking of piss, Phil.
Yeah.
Glad to be back. Number 1.
Yeah.
When you were in the military, did they have the little charts above the urinals in the bathroom that told you
Color check.
And it was the color check, and if it was like black or red, it said like see a doctor.
It was definitely there were a couple of colors on the spectrum that did tell you go see sick call.
I feel like I shouldn't need to be told to go see a doctor if my piss is coming out in black or red.
I would like to remind people that the military is all about what we like to call the lowest common denominator 18-year-old. And the lowest common denominator 18-year-old may not even be aware where his pee comes out. He's just been peeing his pants since the day he was born. Has no idea how his pants got so wet. I mean, the military does have instructions on the toilet paper in MREs. And now I'm going to tell you, why do you need to have instructions? And why is it blue? I'm still trying to figure that out.
Have you
Still
ever,
makes no
have
sense.
you ever
Toilet
seen
Yeah.
the class in Japan on YouTube of the lady teaching the kids how to wipe their
Yep.
butts with the balloons?
With a
on her
balloon.
butt?
Yep, absolutely. I have seen that video. So, big news. I spent Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday out in the West Coast, Santa Cruz area, Scotts Valley. If you don't listen to the Misfits podcast, you will want to listen to this one. So the one that's currently right now. So the Misfits episode that's happening right this very minute, you're going to want to listen to it. I had planned on sneaking up on Liza. That was my best plan, sneak up on Liza. Didn't tell them I was coming out, no big deal. My friend Brad from HVC Cycle out in Nebraska, world's greatest two-stroke tuners, by the way. They are the man. If you have a RD350, I'm going to honestly say, if you've ever bought an RV350 exhaust, RD350 exhaust, you probably did buy it from Brad. Whether or not you knew you were buying it from him, he makes them. So he was building exhaust for a long time. But he's the man. And so just like on one of those random little Facebook things, it was just like, oh, I'm getting on an airplane. And he was like, oh, are you going to zero training kind of deal? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to zero training. Well, that was enough. I made the mistake of just commenting back to a friend of mine that, yeah, I was going to be in the same place he was.
And
Apparently, the word fucking got out, and my idea of surprising the Misfits went to shit. So by the time I was on the ground in California, everybody fucking knew I was there, so there goes that surprise. So Bagel picked me up in his Fiat 500, which is an electric Fiat 500.
You can get those in California.
You can, and well, you could have 7 years ago, right?
Oh, right.
So they're all orange. You have your choice of orange and white or white and orange, I think. And they're only citizens of California. They are not. They didn't sell them outside of California. It was California.
I saw
thing
one for
only.
the first time just a few weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Ohio, yeah.
Wow! Holy
Which,
shit!
I don't know how it got here on 80 miles of range, but
well, there's one on Adventure Rider right now. The guy wants it was
On a
for a
truck.
fleet vehicle, and then it never got used.
Wow.
So it has 37 miles, and he wants like $6,000 for it or $6,500.
Holy cow! Well, when these things came off a lease, they gave the owners the option of buying them, and then a very short while after that, it became clear that through Fiat North America, people were able to buy these things for short money, $5,000-6,000,
Yep.
for what would be a very expensive electric car. But you nailed it when you said 80 miles of range, and that would be when they were new.
Yep.
And Bagels is 7 years old, so the San Jose airport is not exactly a stone's throw from Santa Cruz. So Bagel picked me up. And we're driving back from the San Jose airport to Santa Cruz, and Bagel is driving like a true Californian, like right up on people's ass, then dives to the left, makes his move, boom, slots back in like a little slot car, having a great time like you should in an electric Fiat. And
It's California. The space will be there when you need it.
Yep. It was amazing. It was great. We had a good time. And the whole time we're driving back, we're chatting about politics and bikes and all this other cool shit. You'd be none the wiser. At one point, though, it was kind of weird. Bagel kind of reached over. The little buttons are in the middle of the console, and he reached over and he rolled my window up. I was like, I was using that.
Yeah.
It's my fucking window, pal. And you don't have to roll my window up for me. I'm not cold. But it turns out having the windows down in an electric car, yeah, that's like having a fucking parachute. And so we pulled up in front of Liza's house. No shit. 1%. 1 fucking percent. That is true. I mean, you don't want to push any car, let alone an electric car. And do you push hard enough to try to charge it back up again so the guy in front can finally hit the accelerator and you can go somewhere? Or do you just push and just be embarrassed you're pushing an electric car?
But after 7 years, don't you think that he would know like exactly what that 1%?
Clearly, he fucking does.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
The 1% on the battery. It might be like It might be like when you're on E.
Yeah,
Well,
you get that
again,
extra few.
And you still got 40
When it hits
miles.
zero, it actually shuts off.
the point being, I looked over and he wasn't sweating. He wasn't freaking out. He
But he
wasn't
did roll the
anxious.
window.
He did roll a window up. So I'm like, either he's the bravest guy in the world or he's got the best poker face in the fucking world, because he pulled it off, and I was none the
They don't
wiser
have
until we
any
got there.
battery packs that you can replace in that car at this point?
All I know,
right.
you
It's
piss with
probably-
the
it's
dick you
probably
got,
about
man. That's what I
half the
got.
price
you
of
know?
Yes,
car
they're
is the thing.
$5,000.
You piss with the dick you got, and that's the dick he got, and it brought us all the way
that's a good
back
point.
to Santa Cruz. So we rocked on. Here's an interesting thing, though. When I pulled up in the driveway, not one, not two, but I think 13 electric motorcycles.
Wow. Oh, I saw that picture.
Of them. So what are you curious about? What do you want to know about? They were there. All of them were there. But Brandon Nazaki Miller was there, so he's like the god of, he world speed records on electric motorcycles, Did-You-Now Chargers, all that kick-ass shit. He knows a thing or two about electricity. Morgan Vetter was there, Craig Vetter's son, so he was there. Just a extraordinarily good laundry list of freaking motorcycle celebrities and electric cool people. Diego rode his Harley Davidson Livewire from L.A. to Santa Cruz. Get out your fucking Google Maps, people. That's a really, really, really long way. And he did several charging points along the way. So he had to stop at several high-speed direct DC chargers and charged up on the way there. And Diego's a fucking cool guy. And when I first got there, we tease all the time about there's a video called Not My Harley Davidson where a guy basically shits all over the live wire and then they give him one to ride and all of a sudden he's a brand spokesman, right? And it's clearly a fake bullshit staged video by Harley Davidson's marketing department to pretend to be an actual Facebook post or something.
Go viral.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to pay you $1 million, but I need this to go viral. So this is what's going on. Diego, though, I look and he's got one of those leather motorcycle jackets on with like 97 pieces of flare.
I saw the picture.
47 patches, but his club on the back is Medellin. Fucking Colombia, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He looks the part. He looked legit.
Dude, he looked extremely legit. Like at any moment, his next paycheck could come out of the belly of an airplane as it flew over. The guy knows where all the best landing sites are in Colombia. He's got the electric motorcycle, so nobody hears him coming, and that kind of deal. So, but super duper nice guy. And he's become a brand ambassador, for Harley Davidson. And now I see why. He threw his keys to anybody who asked for him. The guy was a sweetheart of a human being. I mean, just a really, really good cat. Then Stefano, who's the U.S. president of Energica, or Energica. I can never say it as good as they can. But he showed up.
Put more Energica in it.
Energica. Well, they roll their R like at least 4 fucking times. So he showed up with the Energicas. They're up on the screen right now. And they showed up with all of them. So Morgan Vetter was riding the SS9. There was an EVR or Eva Rebelle or Rebelle, which is, of course, the only cool Rebel you'll ever ride. And then they had Egos, but they didn't just have Egos. They had like race bike Egos, which... These things, we'll get into that shit later, but...
Those are all really sexy looking bikes, too.
Oh, my God, and they're really fucking scary fucking bikes, too. So...
Good scary?
In every possible good way.
Okay.
All the best ways.
Fit and finish all there?
Yep, and all the best. Seriously, we'll talk about that in a minute, but Jiminy Christmas, that shit is not fucking around. I mean, remember, these are the guys that do the Moto E. This is MotoGP electric.
Right.
And, they were nearly wiped out by a garage fire.
Yep.
It wasn't their fault. But yeah, these are not like racing inspired motorcycles. They have a race class for these bikes.
Nobody kicked over a can of gasoline is what you're saying.
Not at all. Not even a little bit.
What kind of miles are they getting?
Well, so they've got the biggest bike. They've got the biggest battery in the industry right now. So a Zero's big battery is 14.4, and then you can add 3.6 to that. But the Energicas, these new ones this year, come out with a 21.4 kilowatt battery. And that is fucking gigantic. Any way you slice it, that's a monster battery. But we'll get into that in a bit about how just insane electric motorcycles are to begin with. There were plenty of Zeros there. And like I said, live wire. But the oddball one, the one that was just the freak show one, was the Lightning Strike. And it wasn't just the regular Lightning Strike. Now, for people who do not know about electric motorcycles, there's been this motorcycle that, for the past 5 or 6 years, there's been a lot of talk about a motorcycle coming out that is going to be cheaper than any Zero, but have much better performance. And the Lightning Strike got its popularity a few years ago when it held the world's record. It obtained the world record of 218 miles per hour. Wow. Yeah, exactly.
But they used that to create the world's biggest hype train in the electric
they did.
Yeah.
Not joking at all.
How fast did the hype train go?
faster than the bike.
Well, it has had a
Took 5 years though, so is that faster than the bike?
Yeah,
It's been 5 years of hype train the whole time, just rolling and rolling.
So if we look up at the screen, I'm going to tell you that the they were saying this is all the information that goes out to customers, right? So this is what customers would believe. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to preface this by saying we saw one there. It was not owned by the rep from the company. It was owned by just a dude who spent $20,000 and bought one. Wow. Now, you look at the price on it, it's $12,998. However, if you want to get the carbon one is $20,000. Okay, so there it is. And what you're going to get is more power, more speed and range, better higher-end braking suspension components, and a carbon fiber body package.
I call bullshit on the range.
Well, we're going to have to call bullshit on the range. So they say that it's going to come out with a 120 horsepower motor. That's what you're paying $20,000 for, and that you're going to have a 150 to 200 mile range, and that it weighs 485 pounds, coming with a 6.6 kilowatt charger, and it does have level 3 DC fast charging built into it. And they're saying that level 2 charging should recharge that massive 20 kilowatt hours battery in just over 3 hours. And they said DC charging will do the trick in as little as 35 minutes. Okay. Here's the problem is it says that it has level 2 charging, and that level 2 charging that's built into the bike will recharge a 20 kilowatt battery in 3 hours. Bullshit. I mean, that would be an insane, impossible amount of batteries.
At 30 amps?
And this is, they're saying yes, exactly. So this is the whole thing, or at any amperage realistically up that's available on the street. Okay.
Everything that you've listed,
Yeah.
I can believe 2 of at once.
Yeah, but not all of them,
But
right?
not all 4 of the attributes that you listed.
You
for
got
that
it.
bike.
So, and also, it says it has 180 torques, right? And they say that, and this is the thing, is they say that the onboard charger is 6.6 kilowatts. And if you have a 6.6 kilowatt hour charger, there's no way you're going to charge 20 kilowatts of battery in 3 hours. That's not going to happen. That's just not going, I mean, on a 6.6, no, that's not going to make
You
it.
could do
Yeah,
18 kilowatts.
Right, and so this is the thing, and they say its curb weight is 485 pounds, MSRP of $19,998, right? Optional charger available for another $1,500, etc. So here's the problem. We saw one of these in a lovely shade of white, and this particular bike that we saw was not a prototype. It was the bike the guy was actually riding. And what I can tell you real easily is there's no damned way that was a production unit. The stuff that we saw on that bike, the fit and finish of the panels was awful. I mean, it was terrible. There were exposed wires everywhere. And the whole battery system, all of the batteries were not like put into a gel or put into a protective casing. Because, everything, like whether it's a Milwaukee drill or whatever, your battery little sticks all go into, or your battery flat packs go into a casing of some sort.
You don't want to puncture that.
You don't want to puncture it. You don't want a lot of moisture in there, right? It's just the world accepts the fact that it's just good to put batteries inside of some sort of a container. And these weren't. These were free range. And that's a little creepy because the electrical connectors are then kind of subject to vibration, moisture, heat, etc.
I posted a Bagel's pic that he posted on Facebook to a thread that's going on about this motorcycle.
Yeah.
And in this thread, there's 2 or 3 guys that have deposits down.
Yeah.
And I prefaced it by saying that we're not trying to bash this bike or anything like that. This is just guys that have no vested interest in the bike, but this is their honest opinions, etc. And I posted that, and this guy was like, fuck.
Do you know what kind of gets me about this?
At least he wasn't a fanboy.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. This guy was nice enough to bring this bike out. I didn't go to Lightning's headquarters just to shit on this bike. I didn't go to a motorcycle show just to shit on this bike. I didn't set out with the intention of shitting on this bike.
I'm sure when you saw it from 25 feet, you were like, holy shit.
The bike showed up, dude.
Yeah.
The bike showed up. The bike somebody paid for it. Now, the fact is, he paid for it, I didn't. So I get to shit on as much as I want. Okay, that's it. He did buy it. He may want to defend his purchase, but I certainly will not. Mm-hmm. So this is a thing that if I am, excuse me, every consumer in the world comes into our shop, they look at a Zero motorcycle, they look at some other brand that hasn't been around for 80 years, and they go, well, I have never heard of it before. I don't feel like I can trust it. And sometimes we're like, well, you've never heard of it before, but you've been living under a rock in the United States of America where the only pickup truck that exists in your mind is a Dodge, right? And a Ford and a Chevy. Right. But if somebody told you about like a Toyota, you'd be like, well, that's not really a pickup truck, you know? Or a lot of Americans have a pretty closed view of the world. And they're not aware that these, you know, kick-ass cool things exist in other countries and other places. So I don't think it's uncommon for an American to not know about Zero electric motorcycles, regardless of them being alive for over a decade.
But then they go out and buy a Chinese thing. They have no idea what the name is.
If it's cheap enough, they will buy shit that is literally made with a name like, you know, likely to explode 125, right? Because the price point gets in the way and people are like, well, they couldn't sell it to you if it wasn't any good. Or they make a bad purchase and they choose to defend it until the cows come home. But this is a $20,000 goddamn purchase. And as a $20,000 purchase, oh man, I couldn't be less impressed with the goddamn thing. So I feel
it could be.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the guy that bought it. That to me is it's pretty bad.
Could it be like an Andre Agassi Vector situation? Are you familiar with that story?
Bring it up, man.
All right, you know who Gerald Weigert is? The Vector, like the super angular supercar. Andre Agassi ordered one, and he wanted it done like right now. He had to have it done now. He wanted to drive it now. So they got the car together enough. You know, this effectively hand-built car, put together just enough that he could drive it, and they warned him, don't sit in traffic with it for a long time, don't race it, don't do this, don't do that, because the car's not done. Right. You need to bring it back to us so we can finish it. And of course he did all the things he wasn't supposed to do and then got mad at the company and took them to court and stuff, as I recall. Could be wrong. But my point is maybe it's that kind of situation where like...
Well, it definitely is, because guys have had deposits down on these bikes for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And the guys that have money into them, you'd think that they would be getting communications, right? They're sending emails, nothing's happening. And then there'll be like a Facebook post from Lightning on their Facebook page that gives more information to the general public than it does to the people that have it. So, like, it's this constant, like, you know, waiting. And so when people see these articles and stuff, they're like, well, I want to see the bike too. So when Phil got to see this one, you know, it's exactly that. I think that guy paid a long time ago, was probably like number 1 or 2 on the list, and they're like, we got to get this fucking bike out. And
I'm pretty sure the bike that's in this picture is his bike. I mean, to the actual unit, that's his bike before he owned it. Because when he bought the bike, it had it had more than a couple hundred miles on it already when he bought it.
Is that chain drive?
It's belt drive.
It's belt drive.
So it's belt drive. But here's an interesting thing that I think, if you're looking at a picture of a Lightning Strike, a big thing about electric motorcycles really is how the power gets from the electric motor to the tire, to the wheel. And boy, everything is won and lost in loss. So losses are a big goddamn deal when you're talking about electric motorcycles. And anytime they pass through any sort of a transmission or, you know, gear reduction or what have you, weird shit happens and it becomes hard to argue why you would do that. And when you look at the left side of the Lightning Strike, driver's left boot, the first thing that's super duper weird is there appears to be some sort of a strange gear reduction on there. So you'll see the belt does not go up to the output shaft of the motor. There's a very interesting gear reduction assembly that comes off of the output shaft of the motor. So you'll see there's something that appears to be about a 3-inch round circle. That's the end boss for the shaft coming out of the motor.
There's like a little pinion gear on the motor.
And then there's the pinion gear coming off the motor. And then there's this big 6-inch housing, right, which is where the belt goes into. You see the lines of the belt line up directly with that 6-inch housing, not into the pinion gear above it. So what that suggests is that there's a gear reduction. And that means a small gear runs a big gear. No, not a 2-speed, just a gear reduction. I don't.
How are they going to get the torque plus the top speed?
There you go.
Plus the low end performance.
There you go. So you don't come out on a, you know, let's just say you don't come out on a 46 slot sprocket. You come out on a 12-tooth gear, and the 12-tooth gear goes into the back of a 42 slot sprocket. And that's their method of doing it. Now, here's the weird thing, is that all of those devices, that entire gear reduction assembly, bolts onto the left side of the frame of the motorcycle. So you're adding aluminum things to the frame heading left. So you keep getting further wide to the left. Notice where your driver's foot peg is mounted. It is not mounted to the frame. It's mounted to the casing for that gear reduction system.
Yep.
Have you ever come down a little bit hard on your motorcycle? I have. And it's nice to know when my pegs are actually attached to the frame of the motorcycle, not attached to something that's held on by a myriad of M4s, right? That thing to me, when I saw it, it looked, just from a lazy man's engineering eye, it looked fragile. It did not look like the kind of thing that could take 180 foot-pounds of torque. Or it didn't look like the kind of thing that could take a 250-pound man coming off a curb onto that peg. It looked positively delicate. And there were many things on the bike that looked delicate, including when you turn the handlebars left and right, the handlebars actually smashed into the gas tank. Well, what we're going to call a gas tank. So there were big breaks in the carbon fiber. The carbon fiber was actually chipped away from where the handlebars kept, the triple clamps, kept hitting the carbon fiber.
It wasn't I saw pictures of something where the gas tank was moving up and down.
Oh, you can grab the gas tank and you can pretty much open it with your hand. There's nothing in the way of an actual lock.
So how does so the wind can just blow it open?
Well, I'm sure there's some sort of end fastener there, but there's definitely not enough. It feels poorly. On its best day, it feels like it was hurried up. Or it was some sort of a project or a prototype or something like that.
That's what you said in your video.
In my opinion, I think it was like, it really smacks to me of a pre-production prototype.
I don't know anything about this company, but it seems to me that with something like an electric motorcycle, you can start to get into a situation with similar to what happened to 3D printers.
Yep.
It's like people say now, never back a 3D printer on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because it will either never happen or it won't be right.
Exactly.
And it seems like this is one of those half-baked projects.
I totally agree.
Something like an electric motorcycle where you don't have to do engine castings or something like that. It's easy enough that an entrepreneur could start it and never really finish it.
And I do feel strongly that, look, there's not one part of my fiber of my being that believes that this company didn't build a 218 mile per hour bike. I know the world speed record was set by and I love this. The world speed record was set at, I think, 214 miles an hour, but they didn't call the bike the 214. They called the bike the 218 because the world speed record, land speed record, is like a two-way street. You have to average between two runs. And so their high run was 218, their low run was 210, and they averaged to 214. So they didn't call the bike the 214, they called the bike the 218. Dude, it's 4. You could have called it 214. Anyway, that's me, right? That's me. If you got the record at 214, you call the bike the 214.
From everything you're describing, it sounds like it's all stuff that you're like, wow, this is going to be a completely different bike in 4 years.
Well,
if the company makes it 4 years.
So here's the problem.
I don't think it's going to make
They told the owner, hey, thanks for your $20,000. We're going to let you know right now, though, the motor that's in this bike isn't the motor you paid for. And I also got to let you know right now that the batteries that are in this bike aren't the batteries you paid for. But don't worry, we'll be getting the motor for your bike sometime soon. Any day now, I promise you.
This is the guy that owned the bike that was there.
Yeah.
This exactly is the Vector situation.
Exactly. So this gentleman told us all, and he was very candid about it, that at some point he's anticipating a phone call from Lightning telling him to bring his bike in, where they will give him the motor he paid for, and they will give him the batteries he paid for.
What's his top speed right now?
Not great. So the people, Morgan and Brendan were actually able to take it on roads they were able to go fast on. I was not. And I'm going to say, in their professional opinion, they think that this is maybe an 80 mile per hour bike.
Wow.
In its current configuration.
So that motor looks like that motor.
I'm sorry, I pulled
No, that's all right. But that motor looks like the same motor that Briggs & Stratton used for their outboards.
Yeah, well, and I had an opinion too by looking at it. So there's a difference between heavy drive motors and hub motors, and hub motors tend to be a larger diameter motor.
Yep.
They tend to have a larger size around and a narrower rotor width. So what makes the Zero, the new motor in the Zero, the freaking 144 foot-pounds of torque monster that it is that the fucking thing is so wide. It's a giant wide field of magnets. And that tends to produce a higher torque motor than when you have a motor that has a larger overall diameter but is narrower. And that's just geometry. That's just the science of building a motor.
And the fuel density too.
Yeah, exactly. The fuel density comes into it. So when you want to get torque out of a motor, you do it by massive field
also
density.
by moving the motor to the inside of the motorcycle, you're able to make it much larger than a
Absolutely.
hub motor. And the thing with the hub motor is it spins much slower.
And that speaks to the gear reduction we're talking about. So that's another thing that is like give me an evidence that this isn't the right kind of motor. Well, you put a reduction on. You put a gear reduction on it, which means
that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Does that reduction go away when he gets the new motor swapped in?
And here's an excellent point. If somebody tells me, go out and have fun with it, enjoy it in its mostly neutered state, when you come back, it's going to be like, they gave this guy the impression it was going to be like a 1-hour job. Like, while you wait, we're going to put a new motor in this thing and put a new battery in it. Well, the numbers that they're advertising, you can't have the battery that's in this thing now and the battery that they're advertising in a hot swap configuration. Everything has to be built up. It's like double the amount of power.
Right.
So it's not just, we're just going to come in and like slot out your, this is what you like somebody saying, okay, we're taking out your AAAs and we're putting in Ds.
Right. It doesn't fit.
It just doesn't work, dude.
I would bet money that the full power motor does not have that gear reduction. I think because when you design a motor, you can account for how fast it needs to spin, how much torque it needs to have.
Absolutely.
You don't need a gear reduction like
all
that.
on the build of the motor. And
So that's got to be a higher RPM motor.
Well, I'm thinking that to have the lower power motor, they just got some random off-the-shelf Chinese motor and stuffed it in this thing.
I could not agree with you more.
But then you had to engineer and build.
And you got the price down.
Engineer and build this whole reduction to make that work.
Yeah.
Are you really going to come back and then tear that off and throw it in the garbage, or is that that seems like a heck of an end around to?
No, because the problem is that it's probably a higher RPM motor with a reduction, so you get the torque at the bottom end, so you could get more power at the bottom end. But if he puts what's the point if he puts a higher torque motor on that gearbox? It's going to blow itself apart.
Right.
Totally.
But
So
they
they're
had to
gonna have
spend
to
good money
replace it.
to design, engineer, and build those little gearboxes.
The gearbox was
you think that's
CNC machined. I
Right.
think it's something that they could have easily prototyped at least.
In my opinion, I think that what happened is after they held the notary of a 214 mile an hour world speed record, then they were like, the best thing we can do now is make a lot of them.
Yeah.
Or somebody said, when are you going to make one for me?
Right.
And they went, well, there's an idea. And then it turned into Tucker's situation. We got a great idea on paper. We need to build it. We need investment money to build it. We sell these things. We pre-sell these things. And then, oh, shit, we actually have to build them. And look, I looked at the fit and finish and the quality. The carbon fiber on there was like 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Remember when we first saw carbon fiber on stuff and we were like, damn, that is so cool. It looked rough and it was wavy gravy and it didn't look great. Now carbon fiber looks amazing. Like carbon fiber now, we joke, Energica, half of the bike, it's painted. These bastards painted over carbon fiber. And it's smooth as glass.
Yeah, because now it's just a building material.
It's just a building material. Right. And it can be as smooth as fiber, like hand-laid fiberglass or any other thing. And so this stuff did look like college project shots.
So let me ask you this. So taking it to the root of it, what did this guy, was he like, oh, I love my bike? What was his opinion of his bike?
So I would have lost my shit. So if anybody would have told me that I'd fucked up and spent $20,000 on the wrong way, at first I would have been like, fuck you, hater. But then, if their credentials are legit, which they clearly are, this guy's a new rider. So this guy doesn't own gear. He just recently got gear.
Oh, this is his first
This
bike?
is his first motorcycle, 20K,
wow.
right?
All right.
Right. And I know we don't eat that way around here, but this is the way this guy eats,
Why
apparently.
wouldn't you just buy a Zero?
Well, because if you would have been shopping and you believed things people told you,
I don't believe anything anybody tells
exactly.
me.
But if you looked at the specs, on the Lightning website, you'd go, okay, well, look, here's the horsepower, here's the torque, here's the weight. This thing's clearly better than a Zero, and it's better than an Energica, and it's better than a Livewire, and it's better than every goddamn thing according to the spec sheet.
Maybe he had a boner for a full fairing bike because Zero didn't have one at the time.
Well, it's only a few $1,000s more than the Zero SRF.
But if you know, it's not. It's a few $1,000s less, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
So this is the deal. If we just said, I'm now going to introduce you to a world where everyone tells the truth, and every spec ever written is accurate. If you went to the Lightning website and if you didn't have a skeptic's brain, what would happen? You would look at the numbers on there and you would go, the Lightning Strike base model, $14,000 or $13,990, has better specs all around than a fucking SRF. Certainly better than a $16,000 SR for $3,000 less. And you'd buy one. And then if they say, okay, well, we're not going to build those for a couple of years yet, but we are going to build the Carbon Edition, the Sweet Pants Edition right now, and that's $20K. But you'll have it now, as opposed to waiting another year to get your Lightning Strike cheapo model. You get the Fancy Pants model today, it's $20,000 instead of $13,000. But it has a more powerful engine, it's got all these carbon features.
Well,
if you believe that people don't lie to you, right?
Where is it?
Well, that's the thing is, this is the point where, have you ever heard this term? There's a term for a man who builds up your confidence in something. Okay?
Blow sunshine up your ass?
He's called a con man.
The opposite word being confidence.
There's a man who builds up your confidence in something, and once your confidence gets high enough, you pay money. He gets your money by making your confidence in something so fucking high. This young owner, this owner of this motorcycle, didn't say, or I hope he didn't say, I've got $20,000, I want to fuck around and be a beta tester for somebody on some shit that's probably not going to work right.
Where's the guy from?
California.
Is he from? Well, what part of California?
San Jose.
San Jose.
Yeah, San Jose. So here's my thing. Look, you can't fault the guy for being, well, maybe you can fault him for being trusting. I don't fucking know, man. But here's what I do know. What I do know is what I saw was not great. And that's something that in this current market, I remember the Vectrix thing. And the Vectrix thing was a scooter that was in the neighborhood of, $10,000 to $13,000 that a lot of people said, this is going to be the hot shit thing that you want to buy. And a lot of my friends who were dealers bought and signed up to be dealers for these things. And they ended up getting these bikes in, and nobody would buy them, and they didn't deliver the performance completely as advertised. And the company went out of fucking super duper out of business. In which
buy
case,
mine Gov deals for $300.
What?
You can. I've seen a bunch of those Vectrixes on Gov deals.
For how much?
$300.
For $300
Yep.
on Gov deals.
Yep.
Fucking hell. Wow.
Are they worth it for $300?
Well, the batteries are shot. You're going to spend a few thousand to probably put batteries in them.
Right.
Well, never
But I
mind
think
that.
they're like
Answer that
6,000
question.
watt, right? They're like
On the top of my head, honestly.
watt motors.
Cam's like, that's vet money.
Well, you know what's funny?
That's two vet money. That's two C4s.
Okay, but
I mean, I've seen a bunch of them on there, and that's why I always entertain thinking about buying one.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I have a Zero, and why would I?
Right.
I mean, once you get something like that, why do you want
why would you dick
a
around
bunch
with
of
it?
crap?
That's the only reason to buy that is to tear it apart and use the motor for something else.
And
I have
that's
a
exactly
bunch
what
of
it is,
wheelchairs
right?
that I could ride around in.
A ridiculous washing machine.
Yeah, Nick's brain is going. See how he can fit one of those into a
Yeah.
Boy, that's exactly what I'm
disused
thinking.
dirt bike chassis.
And the motor doesn't have a shelf life. The motor will be a good motor forever, and the power control system doesn't have a shelf life, but the batteries do. So as long as you come up with a way of
That was a
rebattering
hub
it.
motor, though, wasn't it?
What's that?
Wasn't it?
There's a hub motor.
Hub motor?
Yeah, a hub motor. Exactly.
On Gov deals.
There aren't any on there now. But, I mean, I'm saying I've seen them over the course of the last.
That was
year or
the
two.
situation. Any one of my friends that got involved in it, I felt terrible for these guys because they spent, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get these things in their showroom.
Christ.
And then they weren't supported for parts and they weren't supported for anything else. They had some problems, and then they went out of business so fast. These guys, the paint wasn't dry, and these guys went out of business. So it was a really fucked up situation. So there's
It's like,
that.
It's like the Sinclair C5.
Yes.
Modern day Sinclair
yeah, the
C5.
Sinclair is a very good example of that. It's what the future of transportation will look like, and it was basically a child's play toy that you would sit in a recumbent position. It looks like they stole it off the set of Buck Rogers, and they they had an extremely anemic motor in them, electric motor in them.
Yeah, it was one. Yeah, it was one wheel. There were 3 wheels, and it was one wheel drive.
And there was one wheel in front of you and 2 wheels behind you, and there were little hand controls like joysticks.
And everything was extra.
Yes. Yeah.
Like reflectors were extra.
Everything. And they did eventually try to make one DOT. When we were in the Isle of Man Museum, they had a couple of them there, but the one that was the biggest disaster was when the English government said, we're just not going to give you basically road legal approval on this thing. So they did add all the things it would need to have to be road legal. So it pushed the cost up to the point where nobody could ever afford to buy one. So
they sold all that shit as optional extras.
Yeah, they're just crazy looking vehicles.
Did you see?
So
I posted
hilarious.
one on Facebook that was sitting in a field, like the way you see
really?
an old rusted out 70 Mach 1 Mustang sitting in a
Except for
field.
the fact the body is
But it's
all
plastic,
plastic. Right.
so it's all faded out. The decals are all cracked, and this one was hooked up. This one had like a rear view mirror on it. It had the side reflectors. It had the
They're
dumb little
scattered all over
flag.
England, just everywhere, just randomly. Yeah.
Well, didn't after they kind of failed, didn't they didn't some department store buy a bunch of them and sell them super cheap as
Again,
like a Christmas toy a couple years later when everything died down?
I'm not
Look
going
at
to
this
rule that.
asshole right
I'm not
here with
gonna
the
rule
rain
that out.
cover.
Rain cover, the whole
It's a
deal. I mean,
three-wheel
There's one on there
Snuggie.
right now.
is there what?
There's the Vectrix on.
There's a Vectrix on Gov Deals right now?
Right now.
Oh, my
I don't know.
God.
Well, we shouldn't have said that because I
Right.
want it.
Now you're competing with everybody else.
Hey, please bleep this out until
Exactly, until the time comes through.
Oh my God! I found a picture of Bagel riding a.
No way. It's just a ginger. There's more.
I mean, tell me that doesn't look just
it does
like
look
Bagel,
a lot
though.
like
Wait.
Bagel though, driving that Sinclair.
I'm
Yeah.
afraid of the ginger.
Wait a minute.
That's not. I'm just not like, oh, it's a ginger riding. I'm like the face. It's
It looks
Bagel's
a lot like
face.
Bagel, but that picture's like much older than Bagel. It's like-
I'm gonna send that picture to you. That
oh
could
yeah,
be the
yeah. We'll
picture
just
for-
put it up on the Facey books. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's allegedly bagel.
Allegedly Bagel.
Allegedly.
Bagel's a time traveler.
Oh, that would be
I
hilarious.
believe it.
So you guys know, so I went out there and I saw the cool kick-ass bikes, and we sat down. We did podcast. Podcast was fucking great because I was there. I don't know how that podcast gets along without me. I have no idea how those people continue to show up week after week doing that podcast. And then you could tell when I walked in the room, they were just like, "Oh man, I'm glad I showed up."
Well, when you guys weren't here and we had to call you later,
Yeah.
it's not as easy without you. I'll say that. That was a very
With
interesting.
or
night.
without you.
We make it. It's
You
my
gotta have
job to
somebody to
drive
steer the
this
ship.
We, we
Oh, that
drive
was
the
about
ship
as
along.
that was about as close as a love letter as I've given anybody.
Anybody. That was it. Okay, so I had a great time with the podcast. Next day, went for all the training for the new Zero SRS. Now, this is a fucking success story. So the Lightning thing, in my opinion, absolute failure. Zero, on the other hand, what a fucking team this is. Somehow manages to grow their business something like 200% in 1 year and not catch fire on their own friction, right?
And not burn their factory down.
What's that?
And not burn their factory
And not burn
down.
their factory down, exactly. Because now they have literally 12 tons of shit in a 5-pound box, right? And going in there and seeing everybody that's working, our friend Kat walked in the factory, and I just instantly saw Kat standing there working at her standing-up desk with all the fluffy unicorns around it. Very cool. Got to give Kat a big hug, and which made everybody else in my tour wonder what the fuck was going on. So everybody in my tour group, had us divided up into groups. The tour group goes in, and Kat and I see each other, give each other a warm embrace, and everybody's like, wait a second, why does he get the hugs? And I'm just like, well, you gotta be down with the misfits, right? No shortage of hugs when you're with the misfits. And went through the tour. The factory, I joke that 4 years ago or 3 years ago when I was at the factory, that everything in the factory was like 4 feet and under. Like the whole factory was 4 feet and under. They have these little people-powered assembly lines, which is basically a cart, and you put the frame of the motorcycle on the cart, and the cart goes to your workstation, and you do 20 minutes worth of work on it, and it moves to the next workstation. And they
Little
do 20
people
minutes.
powered? Little people powered?
That's the next phase.
Oompa Loompas.
Oompa Loompas.
Currently,
Oompas.
again. Now, the Oompa Loompas do take offense
Right.
to the Cheeto comments.
Right.
So just
Well,
letting you
now
know.
they do, but yeah.
I know, okay, but just letting you know.
Yeah.
So that is unfair to the Oompa people. So to all of the people. Of
I'm
the
really
Oompa
trying
tribe.
to figure out how to sneak a Bloomberg joke.
I know,
in here,
but-
because if I see one more goddamn ad, I swear.
But again, their whole factory works on these carts, and these carts is basically get moved by the person doing the work. So rather than have an assembly line that you need a conveyor belt and everything else for, there's a dude standing there who has the ability to push the cart, and he's the guy that just put the shit on the bike he's working on. And if he can't move the bike 6 feet to the next workstation, we have a problem. We don't need a goddamn conveyor belt to do that. Now, do we?
There's an important. Would they be
Go ahead.
Oompa Americans or Loompa Americans?
Again. I think this
It's
sounds.
not my job to educate you.
You know what? I think Loompa Americans sounds way better though. I love the sound of Loompa Americans.
Yeah.
They're Oompa Loompas, so
I
they
think
are
Oompa
probably
Americans is another name for Polish people.
Oompa Americans would definitely be people in a
polka band.
I think Oompa is
Right.
what they are. Oompa might be an adjective for
so they're all
yeah.
Loompas,
might be a
but these are,
descriptive.
Yeah, because it's like
for
New
Oompa.
Guineans are. They're not
As
regular
opposed to old
Guineans. They're
Guineans?
exactly. They're Oompa Loompa.
West
They're
Virginia.
Loompa
Are there old
Americans.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Loompa.
Loompa Americans.
You could be a North American more than just being an American.
Right.
Right.
And so you could be a Loompa from the Oompa region.
Right.
I think so.
But you could just be American.
Because regular Loompas are normal, are a lighter shade of orange.
Right.
Right.
I like that you were
the
talking
Oompa
about-
Loompas are a particularly vibrant shade of
I like that
orange.
for once on this podcast,
Yeah.
you were talking about real important, cool
Super
motorcycle
cool
shit.
Right. And we managed
And we managed to
broke it.
invent a new race of people.
again.
What do you mean new?
We are Cleveland Motars of the highest order. When you want to get Cleveland Motarded, this is the place to go. There's a shot of alcohol sitting here.
Yeah, I noticed that. All right, regrouping.
Don't breathe in strong after that. Wow, that all atomized. That all atomized right there.
Well, you're
the
fuel
sleeve
injected now.
Yeah, clearly. That was purely. That's that thing you were talking about, that alcohol burning engine that just takes the wood
Yeah.
and heats the wood
Yeah.
and runs on the alcohol that comes off of the wood. That's what I got going on right now. Yeah.
Pipes.
Yeah. It's not the liquor that created the problem.
I'll see your
It's the vapors. Was that the Slivovitz or was that the whiskey?
It was the 10-year-old.
That was the 10-year-old Slivovitz. God damn it.
Well, it's weird because the 8-year-old is older than the 10-year-old.
You know what? They say it's plum brandy, but I think it's kicked in the plums brandy. It's not. Yeah, right? Yeah.
The
And normally.
Slivovitz that most Slovenians and Croatians make
Yeah.
is like 160 proof.
Again, this is just. I mean, there's nothing real special about this. It is 100 proof.
It's not
I
bad.
mean,
I'd rather have that than bourbon.
Yeah, well, I've been taking little draws off the Stro bottle to keep the SARS away from me, to keep the coronavirus.
That'll keep everything.
Yeah,
All right,
it is.
so the Loompa Americans push the
God.
carts.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
So they push the carts and then it goes down. And what's weird is they've still been able to build all these FXs and S's and SRs and DSRs and all that shit. They're still building it. Plus the law enforcement bikes, they're building all those things. But they have a whole separate line that's just for the SRFs, Street Fighters, and the SRSs, sports. And
They didn't get an SRT.
oh no, I'm thinking SRA. So
yeah.
yeah, because I think the SRF is a street fighter, and I think the SRS is a street sport, and I think the SRA would be a adventure
But that's what they had at the motorcycle show, right?
DSR.
Oh.
But that does not have 140 plus torques.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So the
Okay.
SRF platform is the frame that's up on the stand there. That's the SRF.
Right.
And so within a couple of days, we're going to have the SRSs that have the windshields on them. So that's a big thing for us to get those bikes in. And what's cool is the SRS. It's Chris Smith. Hey, Chris.
Holy shit.
Why didn't they call the fared one the FSXR? So it'd be the Fixer.
The Fixer. It could be the Fixer.
We're
Yeah.
getting dangerously
Yeah.
close to Harley Davidson.
That's
naming
right,
territory.
exactly. I think the SRF is probably a really good name because it has all the letters that go in to make the word Street Fighter.
Yeah.
But clearly the SRS is, I'm gonna like riding it. The riding position is it's more upright. It's completely more. It is the perfect example of not being a Street Fighter anymore, which is pretty rad. Now, somebody stepped on a duck over there. Exactly. Some mouse ran across the floor and Cameron was like, not today.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, that's how you. The way you step on a mouse is you grunt and lean forward.
You just lean forward slowly and squeeze all the air out of
Can I
him.
make a quick comment?
You may.
Daniel? Because when he handed me that shot of Schliebowitz, I kind of cringed when he handed it to me.
Right.
I just want to apologize that and he left.
For your facial expression? Yeah.
I'm thinking about I smelled that,
These
and
are
at first I was
ahead.
like, that smells awful. And then
Because I
after
do
it
really
dissipated, I was
appreciate
like, it
Daniel's
smells
sampling
Well, that was
that
the
he
gold, the
brings to
Schliebowitz gold, and this is just the straight up like,
If you sip it, the gold's actually all right.
You guys.
Like, it's not bad.
So which do you prefer between the gold?
I haven't
and
had
the,
that one yet. I'll have to get a little sauce on that one going.
I think the first one may have started to give me some courage to try the second one. It just
okay,
took a-
federal law forbids sale or reuse of this bottle.
Yeah.
And it's molded into the bottle. It's
saw
literally
that.
in there. It says that you can't sell this bottle or reuse this bottle.
Sounds like we need a file.
So don't
Exactly.
burning up tanks with that.
Right. And no shit.
Oh, that's good.
It'd throw really good, though. Wouldn't this make a nice Molotov? It's
Yeah.
pretty fucking heavy, though. I think there's too much glass.
Well, that's why you can't reuse it.
Right, yeah. And then the other thing.
Once it blows
that's-
up, it's done.
Yeah, that's. You guys, I've run into a log jam of liquor again here. This always
me
happens.
something, I'll-
Is I always run into a log jam of liquor. Well, no, I'm going to pass you yet. I gotta
That's
test
a
it.
happy thing.
Yeah, we gotta test a little bit of it. So, but the SRS, it's fucking spot on, man. The riding position is totally comfortable for older people. And
Do we have any of those here?
we will shortly. So that's the fucking story of the week is that
Don't be looking at me.
somebody
Gold
can
card.
somebody can launch something,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah, I looked at that on the website.
So
So SRS.
if you get
What a nice bike.
it's a fucking gorgeous bike. It is one of the most.
and then
and
I
I'm-
saw the price for me, and I was like, oh, it's just too bad.
It's
Because-
$500 more than the SRF.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
not even that.
Right.
I mean, I can't afford that.
If
But
you buy an SR,
at some
like one of
point
the
I will.
old SRs that's been chipping around for a while,
Wait.
and you put a chunky charger in it, enough to get you even close to where the charging is on the SRF, you spent more money than an SRF.
He's like, I can't afford it. I just
can't
bought a
afford not
high
to have
ace.
it.
I just bought 17 monkeys, 7 other motorcycles.
A whole barrel full of
Yeah,
monkeys.
yeah,
Did you
right.
end up buying a 2020 to get the other color that you wanted?
No, I didn't get one yet. My wife isn't working, so
Okay.
I'm stuck right now.
He had to cut down to about 15 bikes a year now that the wife's not
But I
working.
did pick up 4 more wastewater plants, so as if I wasn't busy enough.
I like the silver Schlibowitz better
My
and
job.
Schlibowitz better. And you know what is interesting is I think I know why I like it better.
Okay.
Because this one is produced from fresh, sound, ripe plums.
Oh,
They're sound.
they're sound.
They're sound.
They could own guns.
Yeah, they're sound. They're sound, for fuck's sake. And you know what? Nothing makes a better liqueur than a sound plum.
Is that funny?
I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear they're not plumb crazy.
No, they're not plum crazy.
May I?
Yep. Recently kicked plums.
What's the
I'm
difference
going to try it, Daniel.
between the SRF and the SRS?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Because the Zero SRS is everything that exists
want
right
and
there.
more.
Just look up there. That's you picture that. We don't need to even like go
I
find
see
pictures
it.
of it, right? You see it. So take that, and I would ask you to use your imagination. And if you could use your imagination to imagine that particular motorcycle with a windshield, a fairing on it, right?
Okay.
Okay. You could use your imagination. Now, if you don't have an imagination, you can look to your left and look at the screen and look at pictures of it.
It's such
Okay.
a cool looking bike.
So
I'm so
if
glad
you-
it has its
yeah.
own character.
If you don't have imaginations, you just look to the screen. And so the biggest thing about it, we'll go over the differences between the motorcycle right now. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about everything that makes it different. And there's not a lot. So it's going to be a rather short discussion.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yes.
In your dealings with Zero, since, like, you know, like a sport touring bike that kind of looks like that with saddlebags,
Yeah.
did they have any provisions to add batteries as saddlebags so that you could actually go farther?
No, but you don't need to. And we'll get
Oh,
into that.
okay.
Okay. So we'll get into why you can do that. And I'm sure Electric Terry is already salivating. At
Or
the idea.
Rich, remember Rich, the guy
Exactly.
who was here? Yeah.
Yeah. So Rich,
It's a lot of weight to hang off a back.
Ben Rich.
It's like
Ben
80
Rich, the
pounds
electric
off
biker.
the back.
All right. So guys, look at the monitor. Okay. And there's the monitor in high def, lovely high def. And so what we have is they've made the back seat bigger and longer. Okay. And if you're not sure, just look over at the three-dimensional representation sitting in front of you. Okay? The windshield, the whole fucking thing, the whole lowers is one piece. Okay? I found 2 pieces of hardware that were exposed. Everything else is dead sexy. What I tell people is that if the SRF is the Bandit, then the SRS is the Interceptor. Okay? And for those of us who've been doing this for a little while, I can assure you that is a very, very good comparison.
Or the FRXR.
Oh, fuck, god damn it. Yes. Okay, so yes, the SRS, the handlebars are higher, the pegs are lower. Both the driver and the passenger's pegs are lower. And then the SRF, the pegs are higher, and the passenger pegs are higher. And the passenger's seat is tiny.
So does this have a more upright riding position?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So this is definitely like a BMW F800 ST, or like an Interceptor, or like any Yamaha FJ, right? 1300. This would make an excellent law enforcement bike, for a high-speed law enforcement bike. It would make an excellent sport touring bike. Mm-hmm. And because of the windshield, they're claiming 13% better range at speed.
Wow. That was my question.
Yeah,
Like,
because it's so much slipperier. And as a person riding it, I will tell you, it is fucking slipperier. Yeah.
You said sport touring bike.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
Sure. So sport bikes are bikes what are meant to go around in circles. Well, you know, lefts and rights, lefts and rights, lefts and rights, for usually a period of about 2 miles in the shortest time possible. A motorcycle that can transition left to right, and still go very quickly and stop very suddenly, and do it with a certain degree of aerodynamic efficiency to give it an advantage over other bikes. That is the definition of a sport bike, a bike what is used for sporting purposes. However, if you took the same sport bike and you made it less painful to ride, because in a sport bike, the person on the back of the bike, their comfort is zero fucking concern.
minimal consideration.
Minimal consideration. We want the bike to be able to go around the racetrack in the most slippery means possible. Really? Yeah, as the cleanest way possible. So what they've learned is that aerodynamics in the world of GP racing and superbike racing is a super strong science right now. And what we're seeing now is an explosion of aerodynamic technology in motorcycle racing that we saw in Formula One about 10 years ago. Shit's getting weird. Like there's weird little winglets being added, there's downforce control, there's all kinds of things.
Generators.
Yeah, well, the way that we look at this is we've developed insane amounts of power, and we've developed amazing suspensions and frames, and we can stop bikes better than we've ever done it before. So they're looking for advantages now, and advantages now are so small and hard to get that we're looking at how we can make the thing slip through the air better. In the 80s, they took a GS 1100 motorcycle that had a square fucking headlight, and they put the number plate on front of the headlight at a slight rearward angle, and that was considered to be an aerodynamic enhancement because of the super bikes of the day. There weren't full fairings back then, and that was it. Production class race bikes, these big slab-sided bikes, these were aerodynamically less efficient than an 18-wheeler. So as we move forward, street fighters are street fighters. They tend to have the look of being a bike that has already been crashed once, and all the expensive fairings and bodyworks have been removed. The clip-on handlebars have been thrown in the garbage. A regular handlebar was installed to make the bike a little more leverage on the handlebars, get you up into a more up-in-the-air riding position. And since your headlight was in the original fairing that was on the bike when it used to be a sport bike, and now that's destroyed because you crashed it, you stick some other kind of a headlight on it, usually like a round one. Hence the term street fighter wasn't something that originally came from somebody designing it to be a street fighter. It was, you done crashed your fucking Ninja. Well done. Now your Ninja's a Ninja Street Fighter.
Well, that was the funniest thing I had happen a long time, back in the day, is that it became a thing. Because that was just a necessity when you were trying to stunt and you crashed your shit enough and the fur would no longer hold the fucking plastic together.
Right.
You took it off and you did that,
So the sport touring is, go ahead.
Does this have the look of a sport touring or the function of a sport touring?
Well, it has the function because the idea being, if I'm riding that bike down the road at 80 miles an hour, I have a ridiculous amount of pressure on my chest. I have a ridiculous amount of pressure on my head. I have absolutely no protection from the environment whatsoever. it's just me hanging onto a little missile, right?
Gotcha.
So I don't have any protection whatsoever. So I'm not going to want to ride that bike at 80 miles an hour very long because it's going to be bloody uncomfortable. So in this bike over here, where we've got a really beautifully designed, wind tunnel designed fairing on it. So now at 80 miles an hour, even sitting upright, I can tell you guys firsthand that it's a wonderful place to be. It is an absolutely wonderful place to be. Now, the first thing is somebody says, I heard you say the word touring. That means 300 miles. Well, yeah. On certain motorcycles, it could, right? On this motorcycle, what it means is about 80 miles. Okay?
Perfect for Chris.
With the batteries, that come in from the factory.
Then I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
If you add another battery to it, if you get their bonus battery, then you can probably get that up to around 100 miles. I'm going to say that's an easy one, and that's not the bullshit like, according to our 106-pound trained ballerina that we have test these things, that, has the aerodynamic cross-section of a sheet of paper. No, I mean, it's with me on it. I've ridden these things enough to know that that's how far they'll go. Yeah.
Just on the aerodynamics, it was something I had thought about earlier, last week, and I was thinking about bringing up as a subject for the podcast, but it kind of ties in. When you look at, if you put a guy on a motorcycle and sat him in front of a car, and you look, the frontal surfaces of the motorcycle and the guy is almost the same as a car. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and the concept was, what I was thinking was, why do motorcycles tend to slow down so fast when you wind off the throttle? And that's it, is that the only thing keeping you at that speed is the horsepower that you have, because a car might actually have better aerodynamics than a lot of motorcycles. You take a small car with a full aerodynamic envelope, and you probably has probably a better aerodynamic coefficient than
Oh my God, yeah.
than a guy sitting upright on a motorcycle. And so
Stick your hand out the window when you're driving a car. Go like this, make a fist.
Yeah.
That's right.
Curve your hand.
What about this?
Yeah. Do this.
Okay, all that being said, why didn't Zero? So knowing that affects mileage as much as it does, why didn't they come out with a fairing bike originally? You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like you'd want to do that to get the extra mileage, especially when you're new and you're trying to bring electric bikes. Like, why did it take so long?
One thing at a time.
It does come down to one. It really does come down to one thing at a time, and that's absolutely true.
But a fairing's not. It's not rocket science to slap a piece of plastic on a bike. I mean,
no. I mean, and if you ask Craig Vetter would tell you that the first thing you should do ever on anything would be to build a fairing.
Right.
Like in his whole world is to take a 250cc scooter and build that thing into what looks like a trout.
Right.
And it gets fucking 130 miles to the gallon at 80 miles per hour.
Right.
So he took a 250 motor in a scooter, a Helix, and he made it get ridiculous range and really good speed, except for the fact that you have to encapsulate yourself into it. So you can't hang your elbow out a little bit.
Oh, right.
You can't put your foot out.
I get
like
that.
when your feet are in, little doors close. Because slippery, and it doesn't take much to fuck up slippery.
But I mean, it's not hard to slap what they did is cool and the bike's cool, but it's not hard to make a fairing. You know what I mean? A couple wind tunnel tests, a couple things, and So I mean, I don't get why they didn't start with that.
Because they're stupid, Steve.
Okay.
Because they're fucking idiots, man. Because they should have had you working there, right?
Well, help me if I'm wrong.
Right.
But wasn't there sort of an evolution? What was the first Zero that came out? Wasn't it mostly like the FXs? Like
what it actually was a thing called the Electric Cross.
Okay.
And the Electric Cross was how they got started. And because this does come from, this comes out of the brain work of a NASA guy, right?
Yeah.
So what he wants to do is he wants to ride his his mountain bike around and faster than he can pedal it,
right,
and do stupid stuff with it, and also not go to jail. So he makes a mountain bike, essentially a very overpowered mountain bike.
Sure.
And then his buddies probably went, "That's pretty fucking cool."
Yeah.
Dude, I want one.
You think you could do that for me? And next thing you know, he's building more than one of them. And so it did start from the very beginning as being kind of a dirt bike. And there haven't been any fully fair dirt bikes that I can remember.
Okay.
Now,
well, that explains.
Right.
Okay, I get it.
But then it moves into even with
Steve, you got to listen to the rest of it.
All right.
Well, it does move into like stuff with the street models. So when they changed the frame and they went to the street models and they went to the S model and then eventually the SR, which was just a standard street model with a big fucking motor in it. Again, I don't think anybody at the company was thinking aero because, again, with the battery range they had when those bikes came out, if you rode 100 miles, you were hypermiling. Your name was Steve Hoffert. Right? Like, nobody could ride 100 miles on an S or an SR.
And nobody wanted to be Steve Hoffert.
Well, but
Nobody wants to drive that slow.
He's got my personal best record that I've ever seen on an FXS. So he's driven that bike further than I've ever seen anyone drive it that wasn't on a closed course, like specialized conditions. So
that's my point, is that it's taken this long so they've evolved to where they're purpose-built for highway riding and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so as
now
the range goes up,
aerodynamics becomes extremely logical.
Right. And
now they're moving towards being an actual commuter, like a more of a distance commuter.
Right. And that's
13% makes a big difference.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big thing, and I do agree that 13% is going to make a big difference. But for more people, it's going to be, dude, I fucking hate Street Fighters. Okay? For more people, it's going to be,
Why don't they call them street kissers? 'Cause that's what they did.
Well, I really do. Look, man, I think that the Street Fighter thing, again, is you're into a marketing thing. It's a marketing thing like, dude, who likes a Street Fighter? Well, the guy that gets off of his BMW RT doesn't really want to ride a Street Fighter. The guy that gets off of his FJ doesn't really want to ride a Street Fighter. So what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we've got the Street Fighter already. That was the easy one to come up with. That was phase 1. Phase 2, we had a windshield. Phase 3, well, I mean, I have my idea what I think they're going to do, but
what, fur?
Fur.
Tank?
Fur. Totally fur. That's what they're doing. It's just going to be fur. Yeah, it's purely going to be fur. But I do feel like this was a smart move for them because it attracts a whole separate buyer. It attracts a totally different guy than the guy that goes, well, but I'm sorry, I don't have a leather jacket with spikes coming out of the shoulders, right? Maybe I'm a guy that is going from the guy that came in and looked at the bike the other day who put a deposit down on that, on an SRS. He's a guy that has a Diavel. So his current bike is a Ducati Diavel. And that's, again, Ducati, we think, wrist hurting, back hurting, aerodynamic, go fast.
And I noticed this one here has found a Meyer windshield on it. So
Meyer windshields,
This is somebody who bought one and is now trying to make it more aerodynamic.
Right. We discovered that those Meyer windshields work really good on the SRFs, and they're not super pretty, but many different...
they're not that pretty.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. They're not that pretty. And it's a very... As far as we're concerned, I think the SRS is fucking gorgeous. I mean, it's really a good.
That windshield works on every bike, though.
Yeah, I mean that's a universal windshield, right?
It's one of the few universal windshields that looks great on everything. It made my Grim look great.
They're very good windshields, and they're cheap too.
We're getting a little. We're going stretching it a little bit now.
So, exactly, it made a Grim look good. Are you sure?
I have a windshield.
Are you really?
Form a line if you want to toss off on the windshield.
Exactly right. Yeah, take your time. We'll wait. But not joking around, the SRS that's coming out, everybody, if you're into electric motorcycles, it does represent the maturing. It represents the next logical step. But here's the thing that I think is badass. Zero last year when they launched the SRF, they said, it's going to be a few weeks. You're at the launch. Here's 30 bikes you guys can go run around and ride on and have a great time. Again, I've never seen more than 2 Harley Livewires in the same place at the same time.
Right. They seem like they're very apt to let you just go and fuck with the bike.
Yes. Zero is always like, oh, we've got a whole shit ton of these things now.
We have inventory.
Yeah, now we'll do the launch. And it was really cool to be there and to watch these bikes being put in crates, shipped off to customers. Mm-hmm. And that's something that not many other companies can actually say that they've done or managed to accomplish. It's really fucking cool. I mean, this is the bike. I wanted you guys to see this. This is the bike with all the bags on it. Nice. So it's designed to carry luggage. So the machine is set up. Center stand's optional because BMW people. And there's no chain to adjust. There's no maintenance that you need to pull that you'll need to have the center stand to do it.
Flat tire.
Yep, flat tire. That's exactly it. So center stand's optional. There's quite a laundry list of spare parts or optional accessories for this bike that are already available that I just ordered in the other day. So it's like a lot of times when somebody launches a new product, you got to wait months and months and months for aftermarket to catch up to it. So they're coming to market right now. Boom, all that shit's already in the wind on its way to my shop.
Is that James next?
No, that's not James. That's Aaron, who is the official parts guy of Zero Electric Motorcycles. That would be like James if he was wearing somebody else's hair.
So when do you expect to take delivery of one of these possibly?
Soon. So they're saying
There
that
he is.
The interesting thing is they were telling us that we placed our order the other day, and they said we're expecting to have these in dealers' hands within a week.
I like those shoes, by the way.
Thank you very much. Those are my riding shoes. What's that?
You look so happy.
Well, I'm happy. It's a really exciting thing, right? It's a really, I mean, yeah, I was in California. I wasn't in Cleveland.
It was shitty in Cleveland. It was
like 70 degrees and sunny there.
It's such a gorgeous looking bike. Like, it's not like that, like, sort of like objectively gorgeous.
No, it's a very clean bike.
It's unusual looking to the
I
point
just
where
love the fact that they have some
beautiful.
glossy paint on it. Finally.
They do have glossy paint. The paint looks like $1 million. They're using, I think I can't. Don't quote me on this, but I think they're using Mercedes paint.
Nice.
So the gray, the silver gray metallic is fucking gorgeous, and the blue is really neat.
What his dad is?
What his dad is?
You'll have to ask the Daniel.
Can I light up on something non-motorcycle?
Please do.
Since you said Mercedes.
Feel the need to. Go ahead.
Why does Mercedes have an emblem on the front of their car the size of a garbage can lid that's lit?
You want to hear the bitch of it?
It's so gaudy.
Oh, he's got the whole.
Okay.
He's got the whole
I got the whole lowdown on this. So here, my sister used to be a Mercedes dealer. She used to be a Mercedes customer service rep in Florida, in Coral Gables, fancy pants Mercedes area. My sister comes to pick me up at the airport in a goddamn Mercedes SUV. And how I knew it was a Mercedes was when she entered the airport, I could see its landing lights. It had that lit up goddamn fucking Mercedes logo.
Like a locomotive
on the front of it. Which basically is just saying, fuck you, I'm a baller. I'm a baller. I'm a fucking baller. And only a baller would do something so stupid as to backlight and fucking light up their Mercedes logo. So when they show up and we drive away from the airport, and the 3 seconds or 5 seconds of like, hey sister, how you doing? Here's her wife, she's awesome, Megan's great, and super duper cool, and we're all like, hey, great. Why does the logo on the front of your car fucking light up? Like, I didn't remember you. I don't remember you as ever being a member of any Tang, Wu-Tang, or otherwise, right? You're no clan for you. What rap band did you join? Why is
play a sport professional?
Right. Are you a professional women's basketball player? Why is there a thing that lights up on the front of your Mercedes? And she said, well, I didn't buy the car new because she worked at the dealership. When low mileage or awesome used trades would come in, guess who gets first dibs? People who work at the dealership. So this thing came in and she snagged it probably for the right price. Turns out of the Mercedes catalog, and I'm not saying today, but I'm saying on that day, you had your option, forward-facing radar, which gives you that smart cruise control where the car automatically doesn't hit the car in front of you, yet you can set it for 1,000 miles an hour, and it'll just pace off the car in front of you, no matter what happens.
My truck has that.
Okay, your truck has that. Well, her car could have had it, but instead it decided to have a light-up fucking bullshit Mercedes-Benz logo. So one thing could save
$10,000 less.
One thing could save your goddamn life.
And another thing makes you look like you have
lets
gold grills.
Everybody know that you have a Mercedes-Benz.
Exactly.
They missed it.
And I'm sure that every BMW X3 has some sort of option like that too. It is just a stupid thing, and you're good for bringing it up because it is annoying as fuck because it does make you look like. It's one thing, like, Mercedes are supposed to be, like, understated and cool, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It destroys, well, I imagine if you're driving a C-Class, then you might as well just be have
That's
that
what I was
light
going
on
to
there.
say. I see it more on the lower-end Mercedes than I see on the high-end Mercedes.
Go ahead.
Johnny Drum,
private
stock. Mm-hmm. Very impressive.
You like that?
Wow.
I'm going to try
that is
that.
very
eventually
smooth.
When I get through these other
I told
liquors.
you not to say that during the podcast.
No claws. It's
I'm
declawed.
trying to keep this bourbon from being even harder to get than it is.
Because the price is
Actually,
going up on
I
that
meant
shit?
to say Johnny Mac has been declawed.
Johnny Mac has been declawed.
Yeah, when I worked at a
stop drinking bourbon. Yeah,
Totally.
when I worked very briefly for a luxury car sales group.
Sure.
It was right after the CLA came out. Just an awful garbage CLA. And if you're listening to this and you ride or drive a Mercedes CLA, I hope you're offended because you bought a $1,000 car with a $29,000 badge attached to it.
Oh.
And I had all kinds.
That's why you don't work there anymore.
I worked at an Infiniti dealership, and they were talking about how Infiniti sales were slow that month. And I said, well, it's because everybody's going across town to one of our other dealerships, and it was around Christmas time, and I called it the Yuppie Furby. Every Yuppie had to have one to go with their full size Mercedes.
Oh God!
Or it was people buying the badge,
right?
With
and
the
fixing
shitty
it
car attached to it.
Yeah, that's.
And it was. I think I called it a welfare Mercedes at some point. I had all kinds of wonderful, awful names for how awful the CLA was because I wasn't bothered that we were losing sales to a Mercedes at the time.
Right.
I was bothered we were losing sales to a car that would not be able to sell itself because it was so hateful to drive.
Right. Yeah.
Was it not for the fact that it had a big light up Mercedes logo on the front of it? Because people wanted you to know
we're compensating for how bad the car is by the light up Mercedes logo.
It's truly rotten. There is no reason to buy that car.
I drove the Mercedes van, like their van, the MB van or whatever
the
it's
Metris,
called. Yeah,
the mid-size one.
Awful van. I mean, awful. It didn't work to be a van. It was like I couldn't figure out how to put motorcycles in it.
But how much of that is like the brand? So like people that buy this thing and it's a Mercedes, and they're like, God, this sucks, but it can't suck. It's a Mercedes.
But they don't know.
So
But
I
they
can't
don't know.
tell anybody.
I took it out for a spin because I had read some things that were like, oh well, if you like a van, you should look at this. And then people that buy vans for a living and everything were like, no, dude, just buy the Nissan.
Yeah.
And then we're like, you're kidding me. You're telling me to buy the Nissan? I'm a Ford Econoline guy. And they're like, you used to be a Ford Econoline guy.
Oh, yeah, the stamp frames now are
they're done.
horrible.
So
they're
done.
junk.
You don't have that anymore. So that's it. So I can't get
Those Dodge vans with like the paper, like the little tiny rod for the rear suspension.
No, that's a Fiat.
Yeah, it's a Fiat.
It's
Those
a
are
Fiat.
actually pretty damn good.
Fiat Ducato.
It's a Fiat. It's a Fiat
wouldn't-
van.
I wouldn't buy one of those if I.
The first time I saw one that it was like a Dodge, like pro grade 30,
Ram ProMaster.
Ram ProMaster.
They give it like the most like
3500 grade.
Yeah, they give it the most like plumbing friendly name instead of like, oh no, this is a Fiat.
Right, exactly.
One
the
of
Ram
those ProMasters is the Triumph dealership has one.
Yeah,
They're the
they
ones
do.
that gave me a ride back.
So you have some experience with that.
Yep.
So I rented I rented one of those to go pick up a bed.
Yeah.
At IKEA in Pittsburgh before I knew how beds in IKEA were shipped.
Oh.
And it was like that episode of King of the Hill where he rents the 18-wheeler to take his mom's dining room set home.
Oh, I just did that. I just took my trailer out to the fucking thing in Solon, and they put a box 2 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I could have fit this in the car.
Yeah, because it's just like the boat that comes out of the airplane after you have a sudden unexpected water landing. The boat that comes out of the airplane is as big as the airplane.
You pull the cord.
You pull the cord, and you get a whole other airplane. Yeah, that's the way it works.
My wife sent me on a Saturday with all. I had to hook the trailer up. I did all the stuff. I got there, and the guy's laughing at me. He's like, "I'll get your bed," and he pulls out this 2x4x2 fucking box.
Yeah.
I'm like, I felt so stupid.
Yeah, you see this tiny box, you're like, I'm going to be sleeping on that.
But the
for
best
next
part of this
5 to
story
7 years.
is that because it was snowing, and I was like, I have to put a mattress on this trailer. So I went to Walmart and I bought a tarp, duct tape, string, and a razor blade. And so instantly I was on the watch list for like murdering somebody.
Yeah.
If I would have bought a shovel, I'm sure I would have been picked up in the parking lot. But
and you didn't need any of that shit.
None of it. It's still in my car now, new. If anybody needs any of this stuff, it's there. So
in case you want to murder somebody.
So if anybody would like to look at the screen right now, what we've got is I've just captured some of the video that I shot while I was riding the Energica Rebelle. You're going to see the sign that says 20 miles an hour zigzaggy zigzag, right? And here's what I'll tell you about riding in the part of the world I'm just going to call around Alice's restaurant. So all these roads that you're about to see,
you can get
anything you want at Alice's restaurant.
Yep. You rode your motorcycle?
Here, pickle at Alice's restaurant. I did all the no-co moto things. So I rode. I didn't want to pickle. I just wanted to ride my motorcycle. And I didn't. and I didn't stop. We didn't. You're going to see in the video. We shot right past Alice's restaurant, but
Thank you.
these roads, epic, and there's a reason fucking people love this place, and the roads are just delightful. And then you get on the handlebar, get behind the handlebars of something that's got like 160 foot-pounds of torque, and Öhlins suspension, and the greatest brakes you've ever felt in your life.
Woof.
Woof. And you just have a good goddamn time. And we never caught a bad. A nanosecond ago, you saw a dude go past us on a chopper with what had to be like 26-inch apes, and he's my hero. I mean, this guy that goes by us on the chopper, because I know what roads.
Busy.
Okay? I know what roads he just drove down, and he's got a pizza slicer 21-inch front wheel on a regular, probably normal Shadow F or a Softail FLSTI, probably. And I am about to find out what roads he's just traveled over, and I hope he traveled them at something less than 4 times the speed limit, which is what we were doing. And I'm glad that my speedometer is in the shot for all these 20-mile-an-hour roads, so that people understand that the smoothness of the shot is only because the bike I'm on. And I was loving this. And
let's see your trail braking.
Yeah, we're trail braking like a motherfucker. The funny thing is, Sev in front of me happens to be riding the SS9 on factory suspension, which is great because I'm going to say it's the low-budget suspension, which is Marzocchi's on the front and Bitubo on the back. And I'm on the extra $2,600 upgraded Öhlins package on the Rebelle. So this is heaven. So what we're doing here right now, we got cars in front of us, so we're moving really slow. But
you're still doing 42.
Once we clear these cars, right now we're just cruising along through the woods. It's pretty chill. But this kind of a thing, like this road is magic. It is Empire Strikes Back, Ewok Village, all the above.
Cleveland Metro Parks.
Cleveland Metro Parks has nothing like this.
That's the West Coast Dragon right there.
In fact, I'm going to post this video up, so there'll be a link to this. This video will be on our YouTube channel. I've posted all the runs. So I posted the run on the Zero SRS, my Let's Find the Bad Spot in the Corners run on the Zero SRS, like can we crash one? And then I post up my run on the Rebelle here and my run on the SS9.
Oh, the car got out of your way.
These cars do get out of their way, and it's the weirdest thing in California, where if you fill up their mirrors, the next time it's safe to do so, they will pull off the side of the road and let you pass.
I'm like here where they take up the whole road and slow down.
Believe it or not, are some of the most...
I totally agree.
They're really... I would rather drive in California than I would in Akron.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that I'd be in California.
And if you like that, you need to go to Europe.
I actually, I was coming down the Kernville Canyon Road on Kevin's FZ09.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I was all happy and felt like I was really getting it.
Mm-hmm.
One turn and everything.
Oh yeah.
I hear a little toot behind me, and guess who's filling up my rearview mirror?
Oh no.
A fucking like 1995 Ford Explorer or something. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I got pulled over.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, off the road.
I will pull over to let the Explorer go by.
So then I try to keep up with him a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this guy obviously
he lives there.
He lives there.
He lives there.
He blasts this road every day.
The lineup that we're doing here, if you look at the first bike is Chris Paz, and Chris Paz works for Energica, and he's their like official parts and service guy. Well, he's lived here his whole damn life, so he knows these roads like I know how to get to my bathroom from my bedroom in the middle of the night. And then next after him, so he's on an Ego, so he's on an Energica Ego, which we said that's a race bike, dude. That's a full-on sport bike. And then behind him is Stefano. Stefano is the president of Ego in the United States of America, the director for USA operations for Energica. And then is Sev. Sev's from North Carolina, from Total Power Sports. And then me.
Who's bringing up the rear?
It's our buddy Lawrence. So Lawrence, I'm going to say it's Kirkendall. I'm probably wrong, but he's Norwegian. Super fucking cool guy who's pretty much worked for BMW his whole life. And these guys are all really good riders. They all live for the twisties. We are working pretty fucking hard here. And you'll notice that this video never stops. We do like something like 9,000 turns. And I just figured it'd be fun to turn the camera on and let it run. And what you're not getting here is you're not getting the audio component, and the audio component is pretty good because the chain drive, all the Energicas have chain drive.
I love that sound.
Well, the chain drive is great because you don't need to look at your speedo to know when you're at 60, because it gets to like that perfect like. Yep. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
So what is the price of one of those compared with Zero?
You know what? Here's the weird thing. I'm just going to say that an Energica is going to run you between $17,000 and $26,000, depending on which one you get. And it's true; they are going to run you between those prices. There's,
So balancing on Zero, what's your pick?
Well, fuck you. Yeah. So here's what happened: is I couldn't figure out. We'll listen to the audio later because it's really fun. I couldn't figure out which bike I wanted more. I couldn't figure out after riding the Energica if I liked the Zero better or the Energica better. So next month we're gonna have a bunch of Energicas around here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry guys.
All right.
That's it. So yeah, I liked them so much I became a dealer.
As the weather gets better.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It's kind of a big deal around here.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Y'all are going to get to play with those.
And how is Zero? So how is that dealing with Zero now, knowing that there's going to be more?
Well, Zero, there's this thing about Ford versus Ferrari kind of thing. And in this particular story, Zero is Ford and Energica is Ferrari. Small builder, big builder. There's a bunch of guys. There's not so bunch of guys. That's Alice's restaurant on the right. You're going to pull up. We're actually going past Alice's. Just ahead of us, over Stefano's right shoulder,
Over yonder.
is Alice's restaurant. That little shack off to the right.
And Alice doesn't live in the restaurant.
No, she doesn't live in the restaurant.
church.
But I was really excited to pull in there. But then you see all those cars that are there. They did the right thing by skipping it. And so we went to a much cooler place instead down the road a piece. So speed check by radar, that sign is a lie. There's nobody there at all trying to control how fast you're going at all.
Phil, every once in a while there's some red lights that shine that look like a shift light almost.
I don't know what the fuck those are, honestly,
really?
Nick.
Okay.
I think it's when you get to quote high demand. Like well done you. Or maybe traction control has been activated, which I wouldn't doubt that that's the case, because when those lights come on, it tends to be at the times when I'm under maximum demand. Or it could be pulse rate sensor, rectal cranial inversion, butthole tightness, any of the above. All those things could be checked out because this video did get this shooting this. This was a different experience than riding the SRS.
I feel like the pace has suddenly picked up a lot, right?
It has picked up quite a bit. So now we have no cars in front of us.
I'd say you might want to say when you upload this to
52 kilometers
YouTube
an hour.
that this happened somewhere in Mexico.
Oh, it was a closed course, maybe?
This was in
it was
Mexico.
a closed course,
That's
perhaps.
what my friends do.
The top speed I recorded on this road, you'll see it in the next piece, is 114 miles per hour.
Wow.
And then I did a deceleration from 114 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour for a left-hand turn in about 2 seconds. So I'll keep you in mind that these bikes aren't really light. These bikes are about 575 pounds. So it does take a little bit of work. Pissed me off, the one sign said 25 right as I was in the middle of a hard left. And I was just like, that's just mean. So as you can see on this one, we're pretty well leaned over on this one, as you can tell by the whole world kind of being wrong. These bikes don't care. They just don't fucking care. John Del Vecchio, our friend who wrote the Cornering Confidence book, taught us all about trail braking. I was trail braking before I read his book, and reading his book taught me a lot more. But as I go through this video, there are several times where I just am saying, thank you, Mr. Del Vecchio. Because you'll see a few times, remember these cameras have really wide angle lenses, so that when you see that I'm somewhat close to Sev in front of me, in reality, I'm super close to Sev in front of me. And we're trying to keep a safe pace, a safe distance between us in case something were to happen. But we are clipping along. And the bikes just did great. They're really, I can't say enough good things about the Zero SRS and the Energica. They're fucking great motorcycles. And these are great motorcycles, just saying that, not compared to a gas motorcycle or anything else. I've never been on a gasoline-powered motorcycle in my life that handles anywhere as good as these bikes do. And that means powertrain be damned, just these things handle better.
Well, when you get used to the throttle, it's always the same, right?
Right,
There's
exactly.
no variance.
There's no variable.
There's no
Right.
the spark plug sputtered. There's the gas was not right.
Wrong gear.
No,
Right.
wrong gear. Wrong
You're
gear
in
for
the
the
right
turn.
gear all the
Right,
time.
wrong gear for the turn. Never happened here. The reason we're flying through these turns is because every single one of us is in the right gear for every fucking turn. And the other thing that's amazing about it is that power delivery being instant and the braking being instant. You don't need to downshift. You don't need to do anything.
What was your traction control set at?
So we'd left the barn, so to speak, and we were still in town, and I had my bike in urban mode, and Sev just kept pulling away from me. And Sev's bike is the SS9, which is the kinder, gentler, more like retro-looking bike, and I'm on the fucking Street Fighter, so fuck you, Sev. So as soon as I could figure it out, which wasn't hard to do, I switched mine into sport mode so I could be in sport mode as well. And that was when I could reel him in. And at that point, we became more equally matched because, of course, his bike was in sport mode too. Oh, another thing about that Lightning Carbon that we were talking about before. Do you know how many performance modes it had?
None.
None. It had one mode, meaning the mode it's in when you twist the throttle. There's no modes. The Lightning Carbon $20,000 bike had no modes.
It was in co mode.
The $9,000 co mode. It's got co mode. The $9,000 Zero FX has eco, sport, and custom.
Did
There can be any mode you want.
What
It
is
can
this
be-
going on right
So
here?
there's road traffic. We ran into construction every once in a while because they do have to fix the roads occasionally, and then when that
I like how they
happens,
just put cones down.
yeah, when that happens, you all get a short timeout. So you all get a little baby timeout.
So did the Lightning have ABS or anything like that, or
No,
was it just straight
nothing.
up the?
Just power, right? And what also disturbed me about the Lightning was it committed the one sin that an e-bike should never commit, and that is that it was totally able to drive the bike with the side stand down.
Oh wow!
So I believe that on any electric motorcycle, you need to have at least 3 safeties: the key, the kill switch, and the side stand. Because any less than that will lead to total disaster.
And the side stand's the most important.
And the side stand is by far the most important.
I got stood up one time and I went into a ditch.
Somebody goes up and says, "Oh, I wonder how this is."
And it didn't have a key-based ignition system. It had a proximity-based ignition system.
Oh, no.
So if I was standing there talking to Steve, somebody else could walk up to my bike on the side stand, crack the throttle, and watch it fucking disappear. So that was not planned out by a smart person. Really, really awful. That's just, I mean, again, I didn't want to show up in the world shitting on a bike, but that's what we got going on. 109 miles per hour, 111, 114 miles per hour, 115, and all the way down to 65 for the turn.
I would say, what the fuck is that noise? But in
What
case
the fuck?
you're not,
Yeah,
if you're
what
watching,
that noise
if you're
was.
just listening,
Right. What that noise is, if
Video.
you just want to watch it, we go from 75
Pretty good gap in it.
to
whoa!
115 down to
What were those red lights blinking?
It's got 2 green lights too on the
down to
periphery of the
60
screen.
right now. So 60 for the turn. So that was 60 to 115 to 60 in that period of time.
Yeah, what's all the lights going on?
I don't
like that?
fucking know, dude. I'm just trying to fucking not die, all right? Call a nerd. I have no idea what those lights mean.
Steve, you can ride it and watch the
Right.
lights.
After you ride it, you can tell me what they mean.
But it looks, do the lights come up like this, Phil? Like, I mean,
I
are
don't
the green
know.
lights that come up like
Again,
this?
I'm going to show you my point of focus. It's up here somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So these things, the thing down 2 feet from my face, could have said anything it wanted to say. I wouldn't have seen it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to tell you that I'm so good that I can go from 60 to 115 to 60 and tell you what the gauges are saying.
It said, "Turn the bike off. Park it right now."
Yeah, it said it's broken.
Well, you could probably take a selfie, though, while you're doing that.
Nah, in this particular situation, I will admit, I don't know these roads. I've never been on this road ever before at all, ever. This San Gregorino. I've never been on this. And I've done Alice's restaurant over to Santa Cruz the other way, but I've not done this way. So I've done 84, but I've not done this particular route. Fucking this bike was good. This bike was good. And as amazing as the SRS was, it was perfect. The SRS was like, if the definition of a good motorcycle is total fucking control, then the SRS is the greatest motorcycle that's ever been built. The Energica, on the other hand, is like Hulk mode. It might hurt you. And that's what you have to remember. And the guys at Energica are just like, look, we have a problem because we are not going to build a low power version. We're not going to build an entry level version of our motorcycles. We are only hitting, our only market are people who are already expert motorcycle riders. So if you have the beans, you got the money, yeah, they'll sell you one, but they're not going to fucking nerf it out for you. Like, it's going to be a hot rod bike. These were hot rod bikes. These things were all hot rod bikes. The Ego, the SS9, the fucking Rebelle, these are all not to be fucked with. When I get on the SS9, when Sev and I trade bikes and we head back into town on the SS9, I'm not going to be a fucking hero. I told these guys, I told Chris, I said, dude, could you please slow it down? Because I want to look at the fucking scenery. I'm not in Cleveland. And I'm on the more relaxed bike now. So you've proved to us that you're a man. You've proved to us that you know these roads and we couldn't catch you if we had to. Now could we just chill the fuck out and have a nice ride home so I could see the way the bikes handle and the way they perform? And on our ride home, we went exactly 1% slower. And he did slow it down for us, but not by much. And of course, our familiarity with the bikes all went up. So as our familiarity with the bikes went up, we all were riding more aggressively too.
Well, that's what I found. I went to California in February on a motorcycle ride. Well, look, I'm not going to even say that I'm a great Ohio motorcycle rider, but now I got to go to California where everybody rides all the fucking time.
Yeah.
The only thing that saved my life was Kevin gave me a pretty great bike to ride.
Yeah.
And so, but you're with these people that they're canyon carving every weekend.
Every day.
This is my first time I've ever really going up a canyon, and it's in the middle of the period where I haven't even ridden a bike.
You think you're a good rider? Get thine ass to San Diego. Go ride with motorsports scooters. That's right, I said scooters. Go ride with those guys and girls. And what you're going to find real quick is that you're not a good rider compared to them. And compared to them, you're shit. Because they just hang it out all the time. And they do. And they're not side stand down. They're not peg down. They're foot and knee down on a goddamn Vespa. That's somebody that lives there every day and has the practice. And I'll be the first to admit it. Everything you see in these things, a lot of people are like, wow, that's really fast. You guys are really slamming through there. You're really moving. And with the Zero ride, I went out with TJ, who's, when we were at the races and we saw the Zeros all, beat the Alta. Well, remember the time the Zero and the Alta came into close proximity with each other and the Alta was no longer winning the race? Mm-hmm. We're not going to call it a bump pass, but it was totally a bump pass. There was a bit of a confrontation on the racetrack.
Trading paint.
Well, that was TJ, and TJ is the guy you're going to see in our video of SRFs who led us around. So TJ developed the suspension system for the SRS. So TJ is a world-class motocross rider, and TJ was bike number 69. So John and I were watching him race and win the week prior, but we didn't know that his day job was that he works as a suspension R&D guy for Zero. Mm. So it turns out if you're a motorcycle racer, you have to do something to earn a livelihood and pay the bills or have healthcare benefits or something. But I was like, it was so funny when I was just like, holy shit, the guy leading our ride right now is the guy that we were cheering for like idiots a week before. And that was great to have a conversation with him and kind of just hang out with him for a second. And he's younger and way cooler than I'll ever be. So he's got really good hair, too.
So did you get to party with these people at all a little bit?
Oh, just a little bit. That happens. We do like to bring a certain level. After the training was done on Monday night, we went and found a tiki bar.
Nice.
$10 Uber ride. And we found a place called Hula's in Santa Cruz. Very nice. Delicious times there. And then we closed that bar. So we went to another place that was called like the Pint and Pitcher or some shit. It was like, it might as well have been called the Winchester. It was truly the oldie English Santa Cruz pub. And it was a open mic night for comedians. Okay. And we went in there and we were drinking and we were listening to these comics who were up there for open mic night. And it was painfully awkward.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. I got to give him a lot of credit. It's tough being an open mic night comic in Santa Cruz.
Or anywhere.
Well, but Santa Cruz is particularly crunchy. Like, Santa Cruz is very much the buckle of the granola belt.
If you have $1 million, it's super expensive to live there.
Yeah, but there's the homeless make up for it.
Oh,
So
okay.
there is an insanely high homeless population because it's such a nice place to live. And I was watching this guy do his set, and he was just dancing around everything that he could say that would offend any member of the population ever. And it was tough.
Comedy's not comedy anymore.
Well, that was the point. The point is we always joke is like you can say anything we want to say, but the level of riskiness has to match the level of funniness.
Well, that's
I mean, Eddie Murphy's been trying to make his comeback,
Right.
And it's like, there was a lot of talk. There's no way Eddie Murphy could be Eddie Murphy.
I think he could because Eddie Murphy's funny enough to get away with it.
Well, that's
Kind
the
of
thing.
pulled it. He's been kind of pulling it off. He's been getting away with the Eddie Murphy pass.
Right.
He did the Dolomite
Right,
thing.
Dolomite.
which
was amazing.
Is my name.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
amazing.
the thing is,
Put
though,
your
is
weight
that-
on it.
Here's the thing: you can be as crazy and as offensive as you want to be, as long as it's fucking funny.
It's gotta be
If
funny.
it's not funny,
Right.
then you're just a dick.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
There
That's
was
always been my stand.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are not funny out there.
They're just
Be funnier.
Yeah.
Be funnier. We'll let you get away with crazy shit.
Well, the thing
Be
is,
funnier.
the reality of it is that comedy is supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be extreme. It's supposed to be offensive.
Tragedy plus time equals funny.
Right.
Right.
And the thing is that in the culture we are right now, is that people can't separate facts from fiction,
No,
and
not
that
at
people
all.
can't separate facts from funny.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is when I want to go see a comedian, I don't want him to tell me jokes that are like nice and like my daily shit. I want to be like, oh my god, I can't believe this
Right.
fucking guy just said that.
How
That's-
dare he say that?
Right.
Yet I'm laughing.
Yeah. Right.
There's a comedy club right up the street from us in Cuyahoga Falls called the Funny Stop.
Okay.
And I'm big former O&A fan. I mean, show hasn't been on in 5 years, so I don't know
What
how
would you say? O&A?
Yeah,
O&A?
Opie and Anthony, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So they had Rich Voss on there. He was on the show all
Yeah.
the time. They always
Yep.
had comedians on. It was basically, the show was basically unlistenable if they didn't have a comedian.
Well, no,
inserted
the
that day.
comedian said that like they would be so stoked to go on O&A because it was like they could do what they did after their set in the green
yeah. They
room
could
with
do it
other comedians.
on
With
the
other
show.
comedians.
Oh, that's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I think it was Patrice O'Neill said, like, at the time, like, before he became, like, a huge, drunk, crazy racist, that Anthony Cumia was the best comedian that had never gotten in front of a crowd.
Right. And what's the guy, who's
Jim
the bald
Norton.
head? Jim
Jim
Norton.
Jim Norton.
He's
Jim
the guy
Norton
that,
was very funny at that time.
oh, he was great. And he
was
still
great.
kind of is most
He's
of the
still
time.
most of the time, yeah.
Anybody
So-
want to talk about a very dumb motorcycle?
Okay.
I just want to finish the
Go
story
ahead.
real quick. So, like,
Wait.
Rich Voss,
Yeah.
we sit up front every time we see him because he comes through at least once a year.
Oh.
And he just rips apart everyone in the audience based entirely on how you look to him as a stereotype, like what you're wearing, everything, and he
crowd
will
work.
completely tear apart your entire life, and it's happening to you. And it's the most brutal shit you've ever heard, and
Yeah.
it's the funniest goddamn
Oh,
thing.
dude, I've been to comedians.
you're-
They're
you're
like,
almost like-
you're a fat Ohio guy. That's why you have a beard. You're covering your fucking multiple chins, and I get it. But if they're good at it, you're like,
Exactly.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. Like,
So when I
make
went to
fun of
go,
me.
like years ago, I did stand up at like Eurogyro a couple times on open mic nights. You ever been there?
No, but I want to hear you do stand up. That's
There's one in Madison.
You got a tight five? I'm dying to hear a tight five.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
Man, go.
Tight 10 minutes.
Be funny.
so it was a lot of Kent State students that were up there.
Do surgery.
And I don't think I'm that good at comedy because I spent like 7 years writing a joke about like a masturbation joke. Like honing a masturbation joke.
Honing it.
All right, here.
Really rubbing that one out, aren't you?
Well, here's the joke.
Phoning it.
Oh, wait a second. I just made that joke.
Yeah, less than 7 years.
Wow.
So,
Five seconds.
so here's the joke, and it was my opener. It was, I was a really nerdy kid growing up.
Yeah.
I didn't like really, have an easy time getting along with other kids or like identifying with other kids, and all the adults in my life would say stuff like, "You're an old soul," or "Don't worry about it, Cam. You'll come into your own in college." And they kept saying that. "You'll come into your own in college. You'll come into your own in college." I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Come into my own what? My own pillow? I do that already.
Hey.
And I spent 7 years writing that joke.
That was 7 years? I'm glad you picked
Sorry,
journalism.
6 years. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, there would be guys performing from Kent State, and they'd
Yeah.
be really nervous because they would do like if they did anything that applied to anyone in the audience, they would get nervous. And like we'd all kind of sit and talk at like our shitty version of the cellar table and like talk about it. And I'm like, you have to be fully committed to whatever joke you're telling. If you're telling a joke about, if you're telling a joke about women and there's women in the audience, if you're nervous when you're telling the joke, the people in the audience are going to go, he really feels that way.
Right.
But if you're totally committed to the joke and you perform the joke, they're going to be like, well, he's just telling a joke.
Yeah, it's Bill Burr.
But if you're nervous about it, people are going to be like, he really feels that way about those people.
If 95% of the people laugh and 5% would walk out,
that's a win.
You still got their money.
I'll tell you about,
you try to get rid of 5% with every joke, and then your evening's cut short.
Stereotype.
Then Steve,
it's all stereotypes, and that's the thing is people they get
the
up on stage.
quickest way to make no one happy is to try to make everyone
happy, and it's just they play stereotypes. You play stereotypes.
When you start when you start placing limitations on comedy, it's like it's okay if there's things that you don't like and like jokes that like you tune out personally because they make you uncomfortable. That's fine. But as soon as you start trying to tell people you're not allowed to joke about this or that, like you can't put limits on comedy.
Dude, one of the best things I've ever seen is, so Bill Burr does a lot of shit that's like really on the edge of like being whatever, right?
Right.
And he does a lot of stuff about racial things and stuff. And he's married to a black woman, and he talks about dating her and all this stuff and how crazy it was for him to be as a white guy to walk past certain parts of like Harlem and things. So there's a bunch of shit on YouTube where there's like black guys that have never heard Bill Burr talk before or anything. And like, we heard this guy, whatever, and they're listening to his stand-up thing, which like everybody's like, oh, this is the worst thing he's ever done. And they keep pausing it going, this motherfucker is 100% correct. This is the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. And then they keep going. And then like the one dude was laughing so hard he punched his other friend in the face, and he punched him. And they're like, why'd you punch me? He goes, because I didn't know what else to do. I was laughing so fucking hard at this guy.
Oh, yeah. My mom does that all the time at comedy clubs.
You
know what? I'll tell you. I mean, I will tell you. There is a stereotype. There's a stereotype that is absolutely true about black people, and I'll do it. And I'll say it. Yeah. They punch really hard. So up on the screen, we got the switch gear for a fucking Africa Twin.
That's a fucking 1990s Pontiac steering wheel.
You know what? The left switch assembly on an Africa Twin is the reason I quit playing video games after Sega. So after Sega 16-bit, the reason I quit playing video games is too many fucking buttons, right?
It's
so
like
I couldn't play a fucking PlayStation. So Liza let me borrow her Africa Twin. And,
I was very excited. I saw you post this video.
I posted a little video up there.
And I've been a huge fan of the Africa Twin. But I was like very scared of the DTC.
I wish I knew somebody who had an Africa Twin who would let me take a test ride.
Hers is a DCT.
No, DCT, that's the big difference.
Right. And so I'm going to introduce you to the left switch nacelle on an Africa Twin.
Can we look up how much that costs to replace?
Oh, I'm sure it's hojillions of dollars. So the left switch nacelle, the left controller, if you will, on an Africa Twin, I rode this thing around for 20 minutes, and I should have spent 16 hours reading the fucking manual.
Still doesn't have cruise control.
It does.
Okay.
I think it does.
I don't fucking know. I wouldn't have been able to find cruise control.
It's not on
because
the left, it's on the right.
What I'm showing you guys in this picture, thou shits you not. There's 14 buttons that you can see in this picture, and 2 more or 3 more buttons you can't see. That means you have 17 buttons that you can control with your left hand. Do you know how many fingers I have in my left hand? Less than 17.
Yeah.
I have played saxophones that are less complicated than a fucking Africa Twin. This is a disaster of a motorcycle.
Why do they do stupid shit like that?
I am so angry at this bike right now.
We were just talking about comedians, and Phil dropped this one.
I don't.
I'm putting that on Facebook right now.
I don't like this.
Direct TV remote. You're supposed to connect.
Cam just wrote that shit down for his next 17 articles. Everything on this dashboard looks like a fucking keyboard. I played saxophones that had less.
You know what? Fuck it. Take it all. I don't get paid for this shit. All right. Okay. So
you're not stealing his material, are you?
Yeah.
No,
he's copying
you can steal it if you want.
I
honestly don't give a shit. Okay. Then there's some extra buttons that they couldn't fit on the fucking handlebars. Do you know where they put those? Behind the windshield. So behind the windshield, next to the speedometer, there's these other buttons. And I love the icon for the one button because it's a picture of a motorcycle with an arrow pointing at where the tailpipe would be, and then the international no symbol over the ABS. And that means turn off your rear ABS. Then there's a button that is just the giant letter G.
G spot.
It is. I was like, you press the button and it instantly finds the G spot. So it turns out that big button with a big G on it. Would anyone here in the room like to guess? Or maybe you watched my video earlier, but go ahead.
It turns off gravity.
Okay, turns off the gravity. It's gravity on, gravity off.
It turns you gay.
It turns you gay. And which, by the way, that button has been implied on every Vespa I've ever sold. That's
a built-in feature.
That has been a built-in feature of every Vespa I've ever sold.
automatic.
So
And I'm proud.
I rode quite a few different motorcycles last year. The only thing that I rode that any woman would look at was the Vespa.
Well, yeah.
So,
so you know what the G button does?
You have a.
Do you have a G button
is
on
it
your
all
bike?
different?
You have a G
I
button?
have the ABS button, and then there's a
Do you have a G button?
no.
You don't have a G button.
No.
So you don't have a G
So
spot.
it must have to do with the DCT.
It does have to do with the DCT.
Oh, gear.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, come on, man. Come on. There's 8 of us here, for fuck's sake, and nobody's going to take a stab at what the goddamn G button does?
Giga.
Grinder.
Grinder.
Literally, you press the button and a gay guy shows up on the back of your bike. Good sweet. Literally, boop. I'm here, John.
Gopher.
Right, gopher. No, it's for gravel. So you press that button and it allows some wheel slip. So you can you can shoot the bike around using the back tire.
So they put a whole button just for gravel.
Just for gravel.
So they have 9 modes.
Yeah, well, at least.
And then gravel.
And gravel. Okay, and then the console, the display, has 3 different tiers. So as you press a button, the little arrow there, see where my mouse is, my little finger? The arrow goes from that one to the next one to the next one. So each one is like you're basically you're moving the thing through a chapter. And then when you're in the chapter, you can change things in that chapter. Again,
There's a toggle up and down, and then another button next to that, so you could change that.
Steve, there's 17 buttons on the left handset.
I'm just saying the old
Right.
ones had.
Yeah.
They had a button like this to change your ABS setting.
Yeah.
Or the traction control setting. And then they had those other. They
I
had
will
that
introduce you
ABS.
to my nemesis. My nemesis is that because, one, it has a button that just has a fucking star on it. Look, it has a button that just has a star on it.
Are you telling me you rode this motorcycle?
I did ride this motorcycle.
Well, you didn't read the owner's manual?
No, I did not read the owner's manual.
If you ride well, you
I
hit
probably
that
couldn't
button.
lift the fucking owner's manual.
It's the gold star button. If
It's
you did a
literally,
good
I was
job,
joking.
you-
I was like, okay, you press that button and sparkles come out of it.
Okay,
would
you
be
know
the
what?
only thing that would be appropriate.
This
You're
is
complaining
OnStar.
about this.
Glitter button, glitter bomb.
I had a gold wing
Yeah.
LTD.
Right.
Look at the center console on that. There's
Yeah,
like
but-
92 buttons.
But here's
on
the
it.
thing is, in a Goldwing LTD, and in all of the Goldwings, everything that was in the center console was
radio.
simply about luxury. So everything in the middle console was not anything to do with the mechanical
Right.
operation of the motorcycle. Okay? But here's what I'm going to just very simply say. Count the number of buttons on this machine. Now, the bottom one has a minus on it, and that is to downshift. Okay?
Is there one on front?
There's
to
one
go-
on the front that's for
to go
upshifting,
upshift?
right? So there's a trigger on the front to shift it up and a thumb button on the bottom to
wait,
shift
is
it
there
down.
a turn signal?
Yes, it's that one right there, slightly above the downshift button.
That's a interesting place.
Look, man, I'm not joking. This bike fucking scared me. This bike caused me all kinds of problems. I didn't want to press any of those buttons when I was sitting in traffic.
It made you all verklempt.
It did. It really fucked me up. The horn one, I hope that does exactly what it says it does. But, like, it's one thing to have an up, a down, a left, and a right. But then why do you have another left and a right toggle in the middle of the left and the right?
Yeah, what does that toggle do?
I don't know. Is it lefty-er or lefty-less? Is it righty-er or righty-less?
That's fine-tune adjustment.
Right. And then there's the back button. So there's an enter button and a back button.
Yeah. Wait,
Let's
it's
just call
reverse.
it what it was and give it a fucking corded mouse and let you run the mouse along your thigh as you're riding. Because I don't like it. I don't
There's
like
the-
it one bit.
The fast forward and rewind buttons too.
Fast forward and rewind, and of course, star.
Do they work while
Star.
you're riding the bike, or do you have to stop
Again-
the bike to have them?
Again, all I did was I started at one point. So letting somebody borrow a motorcycle to ride in Santa Cruz by the pier and by the lighthouse,
boardwalk.
right? By the boardwalk, all these places. Letting somebody borrow your motorcycle to ride around there is essentially saying, okay, I'm going to give you a motorcycle that can do amazing things. Now go enjoy it in the shopping mall.
Yeah, right. I saw your video. You're like doing like 10,
I'm
15.
doing 8,
Yeah,
right?
right, man.
And at most, I got up to whatever they call their artificial version of a third gear. Okay? But at no point was I ever in any danger of going fast.
You need to have more fun on a monkey.
I ended up taking it to a apartment complex and just going up and down the entrance ramp for the apartment complex because it was a very steep, like a impossibly steep 30-degree, 3-in-1 grade, and I just kept going up and down that. I did it in manual mode and I did it in automatic mode just to see which one would give me the bigger wheelie. But then with the traction control system on, like it lets the front wheel come up like a little tiny bit and then it like shuts it off. So it really is bizarre, and you can put it into the gear that you want it to be in, and it won't take it out of that gear. It'll hold it in that gear, which is nice and admirable. And it was in sport mode. When I got it back, Liza did tell me that it was in sport mode. I have no way of knowing that. I have to take her word for it, because at no point, this thing desperately needs a heads-up display to tell you what you're doing, to tell you, like, what condition do I currently find this motorcycle? Because based on the hieroglyphics on the switchgear, there's no way of fucking knowing. So, yeah, I really don't like... I like the motorcycle. I don't like the human interactive switchgear. It bothers me that I'm not good with PlayStation. I'm not good with Xbox. There's just too many fucking buttons on the controller. And on this thing, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting that I'm too old to play this game. Yeah. Or, like I did, just get on and just be like, all right, fuck it. Fuck you, motorcycle. I'm just going to point you in a direction and crack the throttle.
I still hate the fact that Honda's inverted the horn and the...
Yeah, the horn and the turn signals, and the Grezzo does the same thing.
Right, and I don't know why they do that, because if you're going in an emergency, don't you want the horn to be at the bottom?
Yes, of course you do. Jesus Christ, you do. Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt you want the horn to be at the bottom. Yeah, that's a no-brainer for me, personally. Anybody else got anything?
So what did the Star do?
I have no idea. I still don't know what the Star did.
I want to know what the Star does.
Recycle Santa Cruz.
What is that?
Oh,
read it to me, Cam.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce that guy's last name, which I should. But
come on.
Latka Gravis.
CEO Matt Levitic has been sacked at Harley Davidson. So they just announced today that they have parted ways with their CEO. This is from Asphalt Jensen Beeler at Asphalt and Rubber. Harley Davidson maintains that the move was mutual in its published statement about the news, but any broken-hearted teenager can tell you that it is never mutual, and in the business world, this is especially the case when the news is dropped at the end of the weekly news cycle. Harley Davidson board member Jochen Zeitz will take on the title as acting president and CEO while Harley Davidson begins a talent search for a permanent posting. So if any of you are looking for a job, you could run Harley Davidson.
Wait, now is this for the person? What's the job title?
CEO. It's their CEO.
Wow, holy shit!
So he was the. Right. So every time you would see well, especially you, Phil. Yeah. Every time, every quarter when you would get your stockholder report, and there would be all the time canned statements about how we're losing. Your stock prices, our stock prices are slipping. We did sell less bikes, but we're moving in the right direction.
Because we bought back $2.3 billion of our own money. Yeah,
18% in the past year. Mm-hmm. It's down 11% this week.
Yeah.
This week.
Well, that's probably why they dropped the news Friday afternoon.
Probably, you're exactly right. Keeps the massive panicky sell-off to a minimum. People will forget about it by Monday.
Don't worry, we're going to bring in somebody to turn this all around.
So, guys, I'd like to announce.
And they have a 13% buy rating, just so you know.
Yeah, pretty low on the buy rating on that one. Wow, man.
I don't disagree. Like, I do think that they're doing a lot of things right. Mm-hmm. It's just all of that stuff takes a lot of time.
It really does.
Anything that's going to change the trajectory of a 100-plus-year-old company is going to take a lot of time. If it shows results right away, that means it's completely unsustainable.
Well, interestingly enough, I was listening to Trump talking in India.
Right.
And they were talking about Harley Davidson. And he was saying that when Harley Davidson builds bikes there and brings them back here, they don't pay anything.
Correct.
And that we pay a lot.
Right.
But if we send them there, we pay a lot. So
yes,
but I thought the interesting part of that statement was when they build them there and bring them back here.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean that's been the thing that
built in India brought back to America.
Changing their trajectory to the positive will take a lot of time. Maybe
it will.
Changing it to the negative could happen really quick.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant. Is making a positive change that's going to have any long-term impact is going to take time. And I do think that they're throwing a lot of things at the dartboard. But I think a lot of what they're doing, like there's little things they're doing one of the things they did that I was impressed with is there's a service that even I use called Unsplash. Mm-hmm. and it's kind of like an Instagram or a Pinterest.
Okay.
But it's basically like if you're a blogger or you're a writer, you can go to Unsplash, and there's all these super high definition images that you can use for free and attribute somebody. But they're not images that, it's like free stock photo database. So if I give you a website, can you pull it up real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
So go to unsplash.com. So I guess the opposite of a splash.
It would be
Unsplash.
the reverse of a splash, right?
Yeah, unsplash.com and type in motorcycle and tell me what like the first 10, 15 images you see
This will
are.
be spectacular. All right. So we're going to type in motorcycle.
Right.
All right. Oh, yeah.
And it is
They are
all
Harley dominant.
super duper Harley, super duper high definition Harley Davidsons.
Yep.
Almost all of them are. And that is because Harley Davidson took a big investment to put all of that stuff out there, because when they have millennials writing their blogs, their travel blogs, and their lifestyle blogs, and I need a picture of a motorcycle.
How does that
article I just
increase
wrote.
their stock price, their stock value, though?
Again, this is
It does
all
not.
long-term shit, but the point is that what the effect that they want is that when somebody in my age group that is not a motorcyclist sees a motorcycle on a blog they read, a travel blog or anything, the bike they see is a Harley Davidson. It's not a Kawasaki, it's not a Honda, and for Christ's sake, it better not be an Indian. And again, that's not long-term stuff, and that's nothing you can even quantify. But the fact that somebody at the company thought that was a good idea is a positive sign. It means that they're not completely out of touch with what we're doing and what we're interested in. I mean, you can scoff at that, but you come in here looking like Mr. Rogers. You don't know what my generation wants or does or is involved in.
We don't care.
Okay, boomer.
And you don't care. My point is that somebody at Harley Davidson had the forethought
for
to
you,
go,
Nick. I care
we
about
need
you.
to get, you look really nice though. But somebody at
I'll
Harley
take that as a
Davidson-
compliment.
Yeah, you should.
I
Well,
thought
my
that,
point is that somebody at Harley Davidson had the thought, again, being a big company, it was probably at least 3 people had the idea of, we need to make sure that whenever, some dipshit millennial that's never even
Well, here's
sat on a
Chris
bike-
and
Smith
that's-
is like, I own 7 of the companies you write for, so
Okay,
shut
but-
the fuck
all
up.
right.
He probably does.
No, Chris Smith didn't say
No,
that.
but here is something that, as a person who sits here that does own Harley Davidson stock, I would like to make my shareholders' opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, as a shareholder's opinion, what I have seen is I have seen what I believe to be a lackluster launch of the Livewire that was promised to me to be the change of the way Americans ride motorcycles.
How long ago?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, and 2 years ago.
And when was
this
the first
year.
time you saw one in person?
It's been a while, right? And
Can I walk into my dealership and buy one of these things?
Yeah,
today?
you can.
Today,
You can.
right now.
You're not going to get it today.
No, I want to walk into it. I want to sign the paperwork. I
You may
wanna
have to
ride
do
it
some
away.
traveling. So
drive
what's
out with
probably going to happen, and I do have some good intel on this for like some, as of Sunday, I have some new intel for you. That if you'd like to walk out on a Harley Davidson, a Livewire, there are many dealerships that would be thrilled to have you come in and get their Livewire off their fucking floor. Okay? Thrilled. Like, might even give you a discount
It's a boat anchor?
I feel like it'd be quicker
in
to
their
ride the,
particular dealerships.
it'd be quicker to ride the new Zero than it would be to
But
get a
the
Live.
point being that they have not gotten market penetration. We know that. Their Harley Davidson owners have not embraced the idea. They've embraced the idea of the Livewire less than they embraced the Street 750 and the Street 500, less than they embraced the Buell, and less than they embraced the, the thing rang at the wrong time. The V-Rod. So the V-Rod, the Buell, and all that shit.
Is that Rand?
No, it's James. All right. It's basically a Star Wars video, but, that's okay. Going to mute James.
And the thing is
But
that
yeah.
the V-Rod was awesome, and it just got fucked.
Everybody decided they liked the V-Rod 2 years after they stopped making
After
it.
they stopped making it. And that's very much the Harley way. Do you want to know who loves the Dyna? Every fucking buddy who walks into my shop. And do you know who bought a Dyna for the past 5 years? No fucking body. Right? So
that
you
happened
took
with
it
the
away.
FXR that came before.
Exactly. You took it away, so now everybody wants it. So now it's the worst thing you ever did was taking away the Dyna. But that's the Harley Davidson thing. And it was funny because I did have a guy come into my shop today and was like, I want the new Zero SRS. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you do. And I'm like, give me your fucking money. And he goes, because, look, he goes, oh yeah, well I buy one right now, except for did I see that it only comes in blue and gray?
Oh my God.
I'm like, yes, it comes in blue and gray. It should come in that red color. then go back in time and buy one. You know, well, can I buy a kit to put a red fairing on an SRF? You know, what the shit, man? Like my grandma used to say, you want egg in your beer? Like, it's just ridiculous. And that is
Ain't it?
It's a fucking psychological problem,
people
Steve.
put egg in their beer?
It's a psychological problem. So the problem is
Yes, they do.
that people, we'll talk about the eggs and beers later, but it's a foam thing. But anyway, it's a psychological problem that I'm not going to say Americans have, maybe all consumers have. The point is, if I give you everything, if I give you 17 different colors, salted nuts, a vibrating ashtray, and a seat heater, you're still going to come in and say, but I want a deeper periwinkle blue. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you want the permission to not make a purchase right now. You want a permission to be like, well, they almost got it right. And
I just say that that's not me.
No, it's not you, but it's 37% of the people that come into my shop,
and
which is enough to drive you full on insane.
Right. That's bullshit.
Exactly.
That's like a restaurant that offers too much shit.
Right.
You don't know what to get.
Yeah.
And then you're not really happy with what you got because they don't really do it that well.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Cane's is making $1 billion selling 4 ingredients: chicken, French fries, coleslaw, and garlic toast.
100%. But they're doing it well, right?
There's like a very specific word for that in like
it's called "fuck you." This is what we do.
Mike's place is good though, and they have like 1,000 things on the menu.
And we have Cane's.
Can I interrupt this real quick?
Yeah,
because I figured out what the star button does.
What does the star button do?
I had to download the 2020 Honda Africa Twin manual.
Okay, we're over here literally being shit garbage, and Nick is doing legit research.
I also downloaded the 2019 manual, but it didn't have it in that one.
Oh, there was no star in 2019?
Right, no star in 2019.
The star is new for
It's
2020.
brand new.
I buy this 2019, but
it doesn't have a
store.
Yeah. So, are you guys ready for this?
Yes, let's do it.
Never been readier.
The star button is the favorite switch.
What?
It does anything you want it to do. You could program it to be the G button. You could program it to be some other button.
So it's a bonus switch.
It's a button that doesn't need to be there.
It's literally, by definition, it is a button that doesn't need to be
button.
It's literally
put it there for symmetry.
It should be the R
Oh,
button.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Button for people who don't have enough buttons.
It's literally the G spot.
It does go to
button.
11.
It's some people don't believe in it,
Right.
but if you get it right, it works perfectly.
show up.
So Phil, I have the perfect bike for you.
Okay, I'm listening.
The Super Cub has one button.
Yes.
It has one button.
It's perfect.
It's not even labeled. It's just a circular.
Look,
it's got a nice indentation to it. It feels
serious.
Just right in the center of the bottom
I just need left turn signal, right turn signal, horn, and start. That's it. Okay.
Well, ABS
hold
off
on.
and on?
No, fuck
No?
all that. No.
Right.
No. Listen, I'm going to tell you if you want to design the right motorcycle.
All right.
Unfortunately, at this point, I get to say this statement. I have ridden more motorcycles than anyone else in this room, potentially in this state, because every bike that comes in, I have to ride. Every customer's bike that comes in, and I will tell you that Yamaha had some weird shit going on in the '80s, and there's Suzuki had switches where it was one joystick that went up and down for high beam and low beam, and left and right for turn signals on one switch that broke constantly. Okay. And then Aprilia. We're not going to get into Aprilia, but we don't have enough time. But all we need is my left hand needs to make a left turn signal happen, a right turn signal happen. A horn toot, right?
Mm-hmm. Maybe a flash to pass?
No.
In the front?
No, that's dumb.
Okay.
That's Camaro. Whoever came up with one of those fucking things was just fucking stupid. It's just an extra button that means nothing. If you're going to have a button on the front, you know the only thing should be on the front? Machine guns. Machine guns on the front. That's where machine guns go. Bop, 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 fuck you. Machine guns, nothing less than 7.62 caliber. Now, you want to know where the high beam goes?
Sure.
On the fucking headlight. Do you know why? Because if there's a switch on the headlight, what do you think it does?
The headlight.
The headlight.
Right.
Exactly. Do I need to explain it to you? No. Don't need a manual. If there's a 3-position switch on the headlight, what do you think those 3 positions are?
Off, low, high.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Done.
Then you have to take your hand off of the handlebars.
You have a Super Hawk. Where's the switch?
It doesn't work, so it doesn't matter.
And again, any motorcycle in the world, you should be able to smoke or drink while riding. So if you can't smoke or drink while riding, it's a bad motorcycle. Okay? Do you know what buttons belong on the right-hand side of a motorcycle?
Starter.
Throttle.
starter.
Oh, all right.
One button. You need one button on the right-hand side. That's it. Done. Do you know where your clutch lever should be? Where your clutch lever should be. Well, I took it off and I made a foot clutch on it. Camaro!
Right, that's even better because the clutch is down here. So the thing that operates it should be down there.
Yeah, and then put your foot down on the ground real fast after you fucked up. Oh, wait, I can't because I have to hold the clutch in or I'll really fuck up. If you let the clutch go when you fucked up to put your foot down, but you're in the middle of fucking up, do you know what it gets? Spectacular. It goes from 5 hits to 50,000 hits, just like that. So, no, clutches go here. You know where front brakes go? Here. Do you know where rear brakes go?
Here.
There. That's it. Done. Motorcycles figured out. 11 fucking switches? Bullshit.
Where's the start button go, though?
Exactly. Put it all on a console in the middle of the tank, just like Honda had the courtesy to do. Anything that isn't making the motorcycle go should be in a big old fucking thing. Like it should look like maybe a TRS-80 in the middle of your goddamn gas tank. And then you can sit along and you can click, do whatever you want to do. Have a mouse, maybe don't have a mouse. Have
a stand for a CRT
Dude,
monitor.
have one of those big knobs like BMW has in their cars that you can just do random shit with. Anything you want to do, but it should all be in the middle.
You have a Tempest knob with a button.
Fucking with all that stuff while you're riding.
Hey, my point being that if I want to get on your motorcycle and just make it...
We're going to be playing a freaking video game.
Yeah, dude, if I want to get on your motorcycle and I need to get it either out of your garage that's on fire, right, or off of your leg where it's burning you, I should be able to do that pretty fucking easily.
It's a star button.
I shouldn't have to go up, down, left, right, control, enter, just to fucking start your bike
While
up.
you're going 60 miles an hour. My car doesn't
Exactly.
even let me set the clock while I'm moving. So.
Exactly. This is the point. It's just fucking ridiculous. Plus, what do we know? A motorcycle should have about 6 wires. Anything more than 6 wires, and that life expectancy of the motorcycle goes down by 1 year for every wire you add over 6. So if you have a motorcycle that has 6 wires, that motorcycle can last 1,000 years. If you have a motorcycle that has 8 wires, you see where we're going, right? You get to a modern BMW, it lasts exactly 3 years. Because that's when the 9,600 wires all start fighting each other for space. And the insulation wears off because you move things on a motorcycle. Like the whole idea of a motorcycle.
The gauge, it should be a formula. It should be the gauge times the number of wires
it's
times
exactly right.
whatever. Because the higher the gauge, the more likely it is to fuck up.
Of course it is. And it should be like if you have a preponderance of 26 gauge wires, then your lifespan drops dramatically.
You might as well just shoot yourself.
Well, again, then you got a K-bike. So as a guy that works
or a Ducati, or a Aprilia when Piaggio bought them.
Do you know what CAN bus is? CAN bus is translation for wires too thin. That's all it is. If you work on motorcycles, the first thing you know is you take off. Like Liza showed me inside her.
Hey, unacceptable. Unacceptable.
So Liza was showing me inside her exhaust vent. And, oh, God. Fucking Death Star vulnerability right there. You better be careful an X-Wing doesn't fly up your ass.
Sounded a little wet there, didn't it? Right at the end?
So Liza was showing me inside of her.
Liza was showing me the...
Squirrely John.
Okay. So Liza was showing me inside her Duke, right? And so
her what?
She's having a problem with her KTM.
I forgot.
So yeah, so like out in last week, I'm out there and Liza's got her Duke all opened up and all that you can see inside all the expensive bits.
D-U-K-E.
Duke, D-U-K-E.
Oh, D. Okay.
Duke. It's a Duke. You know, it's a bike, right? It's a Duke bike, right? So anywho, but she's having a problem, and so like speedometer doesn't work, and her speedometer's not working, and the speedometer keeps resetting to 0 miles, and it's not functioning correctly, and the ABS traction, it might as well be a sim, right? And so this is a KTM's.
Let's get at her.
Right. So this KTM's having a lot of problems, and literally when you take the headlight assembly off this thing and look at it, the problem is obvious that there's just too many wires in there. And if you could reduce the number of wires by like 80%, the reliability would go through the roof. But instead, I looked at the wires, and they weren't thick enough to be doing any real man's work. They were all thin wires, which means they're doing
wires,
what?
Yes, just monitoring.
They're just monitoring. They're just sending data back, and that's what CAN bus does. And that's why if you have a little problem,
Were they all white?
yeah, exactly. That was the other thing. I was like, the colors had gotten to the point where it was like
They're all the same color.
indecipherable, because how do you even track that shit out? So again, the more wires you have, the less long your bike will last. So yeah, it's for real. That's a thing. Hey, you see what's up there?
Beautiful.
Do you know what that is?
Is that a 919 or a 599?
That is a 919. That is a 919 Hornet. That's a Hornet. That's a 919 Hornet. They made them for a few years. They sold them in America for a while. And the very, very end of the run, like these guys here, I think they were 06s and 07s maybe, got the good forks. So they're fuel injected. They're an inline four-cylinder. They're a 919 motor. And they've got a nice adjustable front fork.
I like the exhaust.
And really nice,
I was
nice
just gonna
brakes.
say that.
And that's what I think is attractive about
Seat
the Hornet.
looks comfy.
Is the exhaust goes up under the seat.
Whole bike
And I've
looks comfy.
Been talking about these for a while. I really do like them. I've had a couple of customers' bikes come through, and I do enjoy them. And they also have the correct number of buttons, which is nice. It's
How many
refreshing.
wires?
Right, I don't know. But based on the history of these bikes, you might never find out, because they do tend to last a long time. So we are doing a 3-level deal with the Moto Guzzi Grezzo we have on the floor on consignment, and I'm going to end up with that 919 Hawk right there.
That specific one?
That specific
That's
bike.
a good-looking
That
bike.
exact
Nice.
bike. A beautiful glory red metallic, candy glory red metallic, Honda Hawk. So I'm really excited, because I do like those bikes, but I've never owned one.
It looks exactly like the Zero without
does.
pipes.
Yeah, sure does. It does. It
It's
looks
amazing
a
how
lot like
boring that color looks on a Buick.
it does. I
Buick
did say.
Century, and how good it looks on every.
I did say that is an
motorcycle
Oldsmobile Buick color.
Yeah, but it looks so good on every motorcycle.
And I don't actually, I think that was always a very handsome looking motorcycle. And they did the CB, the big one. The CB1 is basically the same bike with a 1,000 cc motor in it. And they went up to 18-inch wheels to make, I don't know, to make the bike look smaller, or to make the wheels look bigger. Because with the big CB1 big one with the little wheels on it, it did look weird. So the Honda did put 18 inches on those.
Did they change the rake or anything?
I don't know. I think it's pretty much just kind of the same thing, but just bigger all around. If you look at a CB1, other than the exhaust, it looks very much like a Hornet. They're very similar. Yeah. And so that's kind of a cool thing. It's Honda's just naked Street Fighter. So we'll have one of those shortly. So if people want to take one for a ride, we'll have one around here and let you guys take it for a spin. Because I've read everything about those. I've read is really a good thing. Like they're just a really good bike. So a good, honest machine. So I'm excited as shit to get that thing in there. You guys saw that the Transalp was out front.
Yes,
I spent a lot of time
Yeah,
cleaning it.
looks great.
Thank you very much. And then I went out and found out that it doesn't run worth shit.
Okay.
I've got.
How much you
Better
sell
you
it to
than
me
me.
for?
I've got at least. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I've got at least 9 horsepower out there.
Nice.
Rebuilt the carb completely. New intake boots. All the stuff you do. New air filter. All the fluids. Every fluid in the bike has been replaced, replenished. And like I said, we found the little thing that was making the motor not turn. It came out in the stool sample.
Did you fill the Adventure reservoir?
I did not fill the Adventure reservoir, but I did put Adventure tires on.
Okay. All right.
But I did make the mistake of putting tires on a bike I hadn't ridden up to 80 miles an hour. So after putting the rear tire on the other day and going out for a spin today in deepest, darkest snow, we're having some snow out there.
Yeah,
And I decided to take the bike out for a ride. It was cold. It was cold. The bike is just not fucking happy. So it's one of those things that
Describe to me the symptoms.
I will describe to you the symptoms, and let's try to figure it out. So the bike idles just fine. Idles great like a champion. Put fresh gas in it, great. Now when you rev it,
Throttle response.
so it's a 600cc V-twin, 3-valve motor, right, Steve?
Right.
And it's chain drive, and it's got a fairly good reputation for being a happy motor. Go ahead.
So is that like a 2-barrel carburetor? Or
Yep.
one-
Well, it's a twin carb.
But not particularly powerful.
And we're not going to say that it's powerful,
Yeah.
but I think that it wouldn't be out of line to say that the bike should produce about 40 horsepower.
Right.
And unkillable.
And again, unkillable. So what happens is you rev this thing, and it doesn't rev like rum, which would be like asking a lot of a V-twin. But it revs more like this. And it takes a little while. Okay. No coughing or wheezing, right? But it does take a little while to come up. And then when you go out and ride it, when the light goes green, if you try to leave the light like you normally would, which is about half throttle, and then clutch it out, well, fuck no, it'll stall immediately. You got to give this thing 100% throttle, and then clutch it out gently. And that's where my statement comes. I feel like I got about 8 horsepower. Feels like I'm pulling a 125 off the line with the weight of a 600.
So it's running on both cylinders?
Don't know anything yet. Again,
seems like it's running on one cylinder.
Excellent question. And later on, we'll start it up and see which one gets hot faster. Okay? Because I couldn't reach down and check the heat of them after it had been running for 20 minutes. I thought that would have been ill-advised. Because one of them might be cold, the other one might be, well...
On a GL, it will run, it does exactly the same thing if it's missing on one cylinder.
Okay, good, excellent tech tip. It does starts great.
And it'll idle, too.
And it idles all day long. But when you rev on her, she acts like she's down a cylinder. So it acts like one in go, one in tow, right? And I do know that 1989 was a particularly bad year for coils, a.k.a. igniters. And this bike, I believe, has 2 of them. If it's anything like other 80s
Put an
Hondas.
aftermarket on.
Right? So quickly, we're going to call Rick's Motorsports to try to save our ass.
No obstructions in exhaust?
Does not appear to be any obstructions in exhaust, although I did find a decent amount of Emma Booten evidence in the airbox.
Okay.
So there had been evidence of both vermin and urine. So I was very surprised that there wasn't a receipt from Emma for $300 for the previous owner. So there was a little bit of animal stuff, but I think we get all that out of there. That's not an issue. And there's nothing blocking up the exhaust. But I do love the idea that it's firing on one, and I have not even reached down to check the heat yet, only because when I got it firing, look, the thing fired great, and it idled great. And it didn't, lope its shit across the driveway like a bike that's running on one does. So I got my gloves on, I got my helmet on, and once the bike came off the enrichener, off I fucked. But I didn't fuck off very quickly. So I just got down to the gas station, put some gas in it, and then loped it back. Go ahead, John.
Did you have a chance to try to throwing the choke back on?
Yeah, I did. So once it was hot and I added more choke, it did not get better. Okay. So once it was hot, and it was clearly hot, I saw the temperature coming up on the coolant gauge, on the temperature gauge, and it did not get any better with more choke. At one point I did rev it so hard. I revved it so hard going across the bridge and was literally just second gear trying to take it up to the rev limiter, but it wouldn't even get up to the rev limiter.
Was it rough, though?
Yeah. It was rowdy. Yeah, it was not good. So I did not. So that's where I'm thinking, one cylinder, maybe I've got one igniter that's not firing.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny. You would think you'd have half the horsepower.
Of course.
You get about
a third, maybe a quarter. Yeah, no shit, man.
I've had bikes that they lost one cylinder.
Well, that's because the other
one in go and one in tow.
Right.
Yeah,
the other one's an air compressor.
Yeah.
So tonight we'll go play with it. And we'll just go fire it up out there. It's real easy to start, and we'll start it up, and we'll see if only one cylinder gets hot. And then we'll know.
But the only thing was that maybe it's running at idle, but as soon as you open the throttle
again, that
could be a problem. So
I described it as the world's worst timing because it starts so perfectly, yet it has no top end. So therefore, absolutely retarded timing, right? So
you could have a break. I mean, the wiring could be broken down where as soon as you put more. It gets
load on
tension,
it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a CX that had a bad CDI, and you could start it up. It was weird,
right?
But as soon as it went off of advance, the spark
fall apart.
All crazy.
Okay, good to know. That's good to know. Well, I mean, those are all. I mean, that's where we're headed next. So that's our next step on this one. Again, I was shocked and amazed that we've moved as far along as we have.
I am too. That looks like you've made great progress.
That's a great looking
I'm very, very happy with it. We had to order in a bunch of stuff. Like those fork boots don't exist.
Yeah.
So I had to order those from an off-road company that they're boots for like Rancho shocks, and then I just cut them down.
But listen, so a few weeks ago you posted a picture, and I was like, "What the fuck did Phil? Why did he take this thing?"
It was kind of a shit box.
But like, I guess I didn't see all the parts that you had.
Yeah, I had box of parts.
But it went from like a frame with a motor and a wheel on it to a full bike. Yeah. It looks nice.
I mean, it's wintertime, man. Sparky's been back there.
Phil's one of those guys. He owns a motorcycle shop and everything, but he doesn't know how to work on bikes at all.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I try to never work on motorcycles. In fact, I'd rather keep my hands off the bike. The toolbox over there is purely for show.
We have professionals for
right.
that.
We do have professionals who actually.
You just throw like grease and dirt in it every now and then.
Yeah, I don't even fuck it off. Those tools. The reason those tools are all so clean is because they've never been used. Yeah, it was that bike was when we got that little bit of shit out of the oil, and it was pretty clear that something in there had caused the motor to just not move anymore. But then the motor moved pretty nicely, and that kerosene bath, strongly recommend that.
I mean, when you had said that, I thought, well, what if this was like a soft seize on one of the cylinders?
Exactly.
Where something was fucked up with the carburetor and the guy ran it into the ground.
Fuck yeah, man.
That's why it kind of looks stuck.
Oh, hell yes. I mean, all that makes perfect sense.
If you tried to ride the bike the way it's running right now, you could end up with some engine damage.
Well, yeah, and I think that by me trying to cane it going over the bridge, I think that the bad behavior I was hearing or feeling was probably putting too much heat on whichever cylinder is running correctly. But it is my experience with Hondas from the 80s that it is probably electrical. It is probably a CDI. It is probably not getting spark where it should be getting spark. But the weird thing was I did test it, and at bench RPMs, I had spark. But as we know, bench RPMs means nothing with Honda electronics. So at 1,200 RPM, you might have spark all day long, but at 3,500 RPM, you got nothing.
How long does it go above 2,000 RPM so it goes off of it? It goes,
right,
so
exactly.
It's no longer retarded.
So it goes into advance. Yep.
How long did it take you to figure out that bench testing Honda, like electronics of that era, doesn't tell you the whole story?
Like the 78th bike I worked on or something.
Jesus Christ.
Like this, like it must have been, I don't know, the 20 or 30th bike that I dicked around with that I had to go back into and redo everything, and then realize that after I redid everything, that was probably a small black electronic box that was 20 years old that shit the bed.
I might have a box for that too.
You know, but I would feel better, honestly, of just ordering a Rix box in, because I know at least with the Rix box, it's going to be perfect, and it probably is going to be modern and ruggedized, that it's going to work correctly.
I know I have two known good ones. So
cool. Yeah, that's rad. Yeah. And that's 1989, so I was so fucking pissed off when I took the thing out and rode it, because its performance was so shit when I left the parking lot. As soon as I left the parking lot, I was like, oh, it's going to be a long fucking day. Like, as soon as I left here, and I was like, this thing, there's just, it's fucked. Like, we revved it on the stand. I mean, we had it on the lift, and we were just revving the piss out of it, and it was happy to do what it was doing. It was great. But you know what? No load is no load. And the bikes will run great with no load on them. And you don't notice whether or not they're coming up or down right.
No load is no fun.
No load's no fun. So that's it. Anybody else got anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to finish up real quick.
Yeah.
My point about the stupid blog pictures thing was not that the blog pictures are going to make them money.
Oh.
My point is that how much money did they invest in the Livewire project?
Right.
And how much money did it cost them no money to make sure that their pictures are at the top of the free, royalty-free, you don't have to pay anything for them stock photo database.
Right.
So Harley was a company that was almost built exclusively, especially in like the pre-World War II era, on decisions that cost people $0.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
It wasn't until after they rescued themselves from AMF that they figured out that they had to start spending money.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have to spend money to make money, but they've tried spending a lot of money on things that aren't really showing any. So they need more people in the company that think like the people that are like, well, it doesn't cost us anything to put all these pictures in front of everybody, so that everybody that's, between 28 and almost 40 now sees a Harley whenever they think of a motorcycle. And if they want to be successful, they need more $0 decisions or low buck decisions. Than they do spending millions.
Well, that's our whole economy right now. Our economy is all based on viral, right? So everything that we do, everything that any marketing guy expects anything to happen is just like, oh, you better be the next cat video on YouTube that gets 9.6 million hits. And that's the battle. The battle is to catch the lightning in a bottle. Now, yes, some of that stuff, it's good, and you're like, wow, that's a really cool thing that happened, and I'm glad that I saw it. The rest of it, you're like, why the fuck is this Pewdie guy so fucking popular? Because for most of us, we see that, and we're like, it makes our head hurt that he's a millionaire.
it's like the Street Fighter thing. Like, how did the Street Fighter thing get to a point where it became something that you buy a bike basically pre-wracked?
Right.
It's the motorcycle equivalent of distressed jeans, right?
It is. You're exactly right. It's
but
the motorcycle.
the companies that figured out how to sell bikes like that are making money hand over fist.
It's cheaper too.
Well, that's my argument is Harley Davidson never chases the current fad.
No.
Yeah. They didn't, cafe racers were huge. They didn't come out with a cafe racer.
No, they
great
came out
time
with Cafe Racer 20 years ago.
I was going to say, great time to come out with another XLCR, you know?
That would have been a perfect time to launch a re-release of that. You know, they didn't come out with a Scrambler. They probably won't come out with a Street Tracker. They won't,
And they did come out with an electric bike exactly like 10 years after Zero brought out theirs, but it was less powerful and more expensive.
Right.
Yeah, and they spent way more money developing it. So I think
But they had the chance to bring it out.
Yeah, they got to find
the chance to market, but they're just not bringing out products. They have to bring out products people want.
Yeah,
and they have to have a dealer network that supports the products, the change in their products, instead of being such sticks in the mud.
That's huge.
And trying to just stick with what worked 50 years ago, 30 years ago.
So on that front, so as somebody that's been involved in the motorcycle industry for 30 years, 25 years or something, and you've been to all kinds of releases and all kinds of debuts and ride this and ride that and all the stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So all the doubters out there for the electric motorcycle saying like, oh, it's a fad, whatever. How different compared to every other release of a motorcycle was the electric motorcycle release that you've been to?
This recent one?
Yeah. So I'm saying 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever years ago it was, that you went to like the CBR 1000 release or whatever. Right. How was the ride? Is there any difference from like what you experienced this last time to that?
Well, first of all, it's a very interesting thing for the Zero because Zero has had this 300% growth.
Right.
So it's pretty easy to show people a good time when you're getting 200% better performance than you expected.
Right.
Right. So that's great. When your biggest problem is I can't lease enough buildings around where I'm standing right now.
But I'm saying all these guys that are out there like, well, obviously electric bikes can't do this and they can't do that, and obviously the experience is not the same. So you've experienced everything. Like you've been the guy that's been out to all these.
Aside from being able to literally sit on one and drive it to Columbus in one go,
right?
Like that is the biggest. That's the obvious fucking problem with electric motorcycles is if I want to get on one and ride it to Columbus. Then when I get somewhere on the way to Columbus, or maybe at Columbus, if I'm lucky, depending on what I'm riding, I got to plug it in, and I got to wait for at least 25, maybe an hour, right? 25 minutes to an hour is the time I'm going to wait to complete the next leg of my journey. Now, here's the good news. The good news is if I was driving to Columbus and I made it to like fucking, Polaris, right? So I almost made it into Columbus. So I could pull off in Polaris, and I wouldn't have to charge for an hour. I could literally charge for 10 minutes. So I could plug in, go take a shit, grab a, tornado dog or whatever the hell's there, throw that thing down my fucking gaping, dumb hole, and then jump on my motorcycle and ride my motorcycle into Columbus, show up at cool guy, location, destination.
And plug in.
And plug my bike in again, where then I could have a cheapo level 1 overnight charge because daddy got to drink and sleep, right? So I'm going to drink and sleep. My bike's going to drink and sleep. And in the morning, we're going to be ready to do it all again. Now, if I drive to Columbus 10 times a year, that is going to be a problem, an inconvenience, right? But since I don't, and I do that like once or twice a year, it's less of an inconvenience. But so 90% of my trips are from my house to here and then a little dicking around.
Let's narrow it down to just motorcycle reviewer, etc. Right? So all the years of motorcycle reviewing, because even when the GSXR or whatever was new, they didn't say here's a 175-mile ride, let's go ride.
No.
It was here's a 25-mile loop, let's do this.
You basically take a loop that they authorize as being totally nerfed out, and they take journalists who shouldn't actually be on motorcycles.
So let's compare that experience to what you experienced on the new electric bike.
The Zero demo ride was brilliant. Though obviously the roads around where they are is brilliant. That begs the question, did you choose to be here because of the roads? Because I kind of think you did. This is motorcycle nirvana, and that is motorcycle nirvana. You pull out of the driveway and you're already on amazing roads. So they did push that, and they did feel the groups out to be okay, this group is clearly full of, bull to ore, crazy fucking straight up monster riders.
Right.
Then there were other groups that were like, maybe not, maybe they're like an owner that just happens to also own a car leasing place and whatever. So they did sort of lean the rides to different people's skill level. But what I will say is they were all faster than I've ever been on any motorcycle demo ride run because, again, they were really, really trying to stress to people that even if you're a fucking idiot, this bike won't kill you. So they were putting you into what I felt to be some kind of questionably hairy situations, and the bike was doing its job and not killing you. The Energica ride, that was madness. But then again, that was two of us. So like they were basically showing two people who were both people that whether they knew it or were just hoping it. There are two people that know how to ride motorcycles and have kind of an accomplished history of riding.
You've twisted a wrist or two.
Yeah, we're okay riders.
Right.
And they took us out, and yes, if you said, I'll give you $1,000 if you catch Chris, I would not have $1,000. There's no way I could have caught Chris. Chris is an excellent rider on a fantastically fast motorcycle.
Right.
If we would have traded bikes, I couldn't have caught Chris. If Chris was on a Vespa, I don't think I could have caught Chris. Because Chris is a brilliant fucking rider.
Right.
And he's listening to this, so good job, Chris. Not killing us, barely. Now, most demo rides don't do that. Most demo rides are pretty tame. They're pretty nerfed out. That's a big thing when you look at the electric guys are all doing the same thing. We need you to pee a little bit. We need you to shit just a little when you ride our bike.
We want those superlatives.
We do.
We want to, when the article comes out in next month's issue, we want superlatives because that's the only, you read one person's superlative, you're like, that guy's an idiot.
Do you know what's better?
When 14 people write superlatives about the same fucking bike,
right?
You go, maybe electric bikes don't
One-word
suck.
review. It's a one-word review. Fuck. And actually,
it's like that Onion newspaper when they landed on the moon.
It's not fuck. It's fuck. It's like, how can I make the word fuck shorter? Like, how can I shorten fuck up?
FCK.
To like literally to take the U out of it.
FK.
Because that is the way that electric bikes feel. When you get off of a zero electric bike and you're riding it around, the first time you make it from like here to the corner in sport mode, you just literally go fuck, like because that's some shit. Like riding an electric when you've been riding internal combustion for a long time, electrics are really, really right now.
Well, last year, the most I've ever spent on an electric bike was when you had like one of the cheaper Zeros at Mid-Ohio, and you had it tuned to Eco mode.
We did have it tuned to Eco mode.
And you were like, go ahead and ride it around, and I couldn't stop smiling, and I'm like, holy fuck, this thing's awesome.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine riding like a full-on performance version of that.
Well,
it's...
And there's the thing is if I put you on an SR, or if I put you on an S, or I put you on a DS or a DSR, it would kill you because it does not have any fucking traction control.
Right.
These bikes have ABS, but they don't have traction control. You are the traction control. And by our nature of being idiots, we always want to go a little further. We always be like, okay, bullshit. I know what he said. Fuck him. Light went green. I'm going to crack the throttle. And it turns the back tire into goo. And then you crash, right? Whereas at least all the new ones, the SRFs and the SRSs, when you do that, they go, okay.
Yeah, you're an idiot. Right. We're going to mellow you out.
I'm going to impress you, but not kill you. And how the fucking thing knows to impress you, but not kill you, that's some cool shit. Yeah. And for that, you need a German.
Can I ask you to pull up one more thing?
Yeah.
Can you pull up 2020 Softail Standard? So, I was talking about $0 ideas that make a lot of sense? Of us, how many of us have ridden one of the new Softails?
Nope.
Did you
I've ridden 3 of them.
Did you like it? Do you think it was a great bike that cost way too much fucking money?
Yeah. I mean, look.
So
I love the motor. I do love the motor. Are we just pulling up just like a basic shot of it?
That's what it is. Yeah, any of them.
Right.
I mean, I like some of the detail shots because it shows the lack of detail.
Well, it shows the lack. I was going to say.
You'll see what I mean.
Right.
So it
comes in any color you want as long as it's black.
Harley made a Softail Standard. Right. And what I like about
and basically
it's
a Sportster with a Softail motor jammed in it.
Well, no, I mean, it's the Softail frame. It's all the good new Softail stuff. Yeah. But it costs a hair over $13,000. Right. And it's a retro-styled bike. It looks like the old Softail standards, like the mid '80s Softail standards, and they brought it back. It
looks exactly like a VT 1100C.
Right, but they nailed it. It's the Iron 883, Iron 1200 thing.
Right,
I mean,
it is.
The people in my age group were not buying streets. We're not buying street fighters.
This is the profit margin bike because if you sell that bike at $13,000. you have found the profit margin bike of a big block. So of the big block bikes, anything that's not a Sportster motor.
It's the Softail version of the Iron 1200.
Absolutely.
It's the bike you buy because I don't want I'm special and I'm unique.
Yeah.
I'm a snowflake. I can make the bike
you can do whatever you want
special and unique
to.
like me. Right. And I don't have to pay for anything.
This is just the cost of
emission. Look at the
emission.
fucking air cleaner cover.
It's
like
the cost
air
of
cleaner
emission.
cover is a black stamped cover. It doesn't have anything stamped into it or written
everything
on
the bike is meant to be taken off.
Yeah, everything's meant to be taken off, and you get into a new Softail.
And for that, it is either the greatest success or the greatest failure.
Right.
Ever. Right.
But then you go to any place and you're in a sea of 2,000.
Well, and that's what Harley guys do. Is
but I think
I'm going to tell you, you're going to buy a Grom or you're going to buy a Rascal, and you're going to leave it stock.
Nobody leaves it stock.
Nobody does. This is just an $11,000 more expensive version of that thing.
Yeah.
It's what people do. People love to fucking, tweak on their shit. And
so I think it's probably the most important bike they're selling in 2020, and it's not the most important bike they're selling in 2020 isn't the Livewire.
It's pretty clear they thinned their herd. When you look at what they've cut out, what they're saying they're not building next year, Harley Davidson is definitely in a let's turn things down a notch and save some money mode.
They sell more variants of the sport. They offer more variants of the Sportster in India now than they do in
America.
US.
That's right.
They sell, I believe, 5 or 6 variants of the Sportster in India, and they only offer 4 for 2020 in the US.
Yeah, and
but I think this is brilliant. This is the bike that's going to get people my age into the dealership because I can't afford a $21,000. I can finance a $21,000 Softail, but I'm not going to. But a $13,000 Softail that I can make whatever I want to over time as I can afford.
My question
that's
is
something that appeals to me a lot more than a $30,000 electric bike. I'm going to think the $30,000 electric bike is really fucking cool, and that might be what gets me into the dealership.
Right.
But if I'm seriously looking at buying a bike, the bike I'm riding out on is going to be an Iron 883, an Iron 1200, or a Softail Standard. I'm not saying me. I'm saying,
I agree with
proverbial
you.
millennial
I totally agree with you.
Harley owner. So I think that's the $0 idea that Harley has nailed for 2020. That's the thinking that's going to get them out, not Livewire thinking. And it's a shame because the Livewire is a cool bike.
But will you buy the anagram specific Harley Davidson 338?
No, that's adorable.
That appeals a lot more to me.
That's really pretty.
And that's
cool.
the Benelli.
Yeah.
So that's the Benelli.
Right.
And
but buy the Benelli, it's cheaper.
Again, we're counting on that. If you don't think I'm thinking about that, yeah, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that a lot because
I'll buy a 4-cylinder Harley.
4-cylinder Harley. Yeah,
They make an inline 4.
Right, and then when
Indian does, that would be sweet.
That would be so cool if Indian built an inline 4 that was like a classic cruiser. Yeah, that was like and they called it the Indy. Like, how expensive would it be for Indian to buy the rights to use the Henderson name? And they just sold it as the Indian Henderson 4.
It's taken a while, but if you guys go back to podcast number like 46, when I said that Harley Davidson is producing a ridiculous amount of stuff with QJ in China, and everybody's like, no, you can't prove that. Look at the screen. Yeah. So I love this. The partnership with Quanjiang Motorcycle. I mean, here they are. This is it. They're admitting that they have a partnership with QJ. And
wait, is this another thing where they're going to try to make somebody else go out of business by faking a partnership with them?
What? QJ's a hell of a lot bigger than Harley is.
Yeah.
So
they may be owned by QJ.
Right, and that's what I'm going to say. Harley Davidson might end up being owned by QJ. Because if you ask the guys over at Royal Alloy, that's their idea. But if you have to ask the guys at Scomati, that was their idea. And Royal Alloy said, well, it doesn't work exactly right. We're going to change one cunt hair, and now we own it. And so that's that trick is the Chinese are very famous for saying, you've done a very good job. You've got us 98% of the way there. But we're going to tweak just a couple of items just to make it better. And that'll help your sales. And it'll help us build it for you. Because if you want us to build this for you, we got to make it so we can build it for you. So we're going to change a few things to make assembly easier. And then next thing you know, it's not your property anymore. They own it. You did all the heavy lifting. They just came in for the last tap it in, but now it's their product. And that's a big thing in the motorcycle industry, and that's how a lot of people end up having a great idea. That's $1 million idea, but it costs them $1 million to defend it. Next thing you know, they're -1 millionaires because they tried to defend their $1 million idea, but it's hard to sue China. China's a big place.
Plus, they rip off everything.
Well, that and the government owns the businesses. So because the governments have a stake in the businesses, you can come in there with a big dick attorney, but big dick attorney is not as big of a dick as the government of China is.
They have the entire Red Army.
So when you look at something like this, where it's like, it's expanding its product portfolio.
Rich people have judges. Rich
That's
people
true.
own the government.
Well, again, you don't have an attorney, you have a government. So yeah, it's a big thing, and as people are doing that, we're seeing that brand. It's in a spot right now where it's really, really trying to find its next 20 years. And Cameron's point is valid that a basic softail, because Sportsters kind of are poison. I hate to be that way, but unless you have a vagina, you're probably going to catch a little bit of slack for riding a Sportster, and that comes from a guy who spends a lot of time riding a Vespa.
Yeah, I love Sportsters more than almost anything in this
totally
universe.
get it.
But you're absolutely right. It's the whole thing about how
marketing.
Well, it's not. Well, what Hoffert was saying about dealer networks supporting the paradigm shift, not only in their new products, but in the way customers are now buying their existing products. When I go, to this day, I'll go into a dealership and they'll try to talk me, oh, you ride a Sportster now?
Yep.
Oh, you need a $40,000 touring bike. Well, no, I don't. Those bikes don't interest me in the least bit.
Right. But would you buy a Bultaco?
A new Bultaco?
A new Bultaco.
Well, I'm a freelancer, so I'm perpetually broke. So I would say no me, but I'm really happy it exists, and I'll tell everybody how great the idea is.
There's your new Bultaco. Runs on
electrons.
That's
pretty cool.
That's really cool.
So that's
how many old motorcycle brands do you think are going to come back?
All of them. I think everybody who owns a factory in China is going, okay, board, we need an electric motorcycle by tomorrow at lunch.
So we're more likely to get the Henderson 4 kilowatt.
Absolutely, we'll get a Henderson 4 kilowatt.
Well, think
exactly
about it.
right.
All the guys that were involved.
Be a Volt Taco?
We'll do a Bruff Superior Edison edition. There'll be
hey, guy that's 72, would you like to retire with an extra $1.2 million in your bank account? Sell me the name to your motorcycle company you haven't used in 25
That's true,
years.
and that's a big part of it.
That's probably how Benelli came back.
Benelli's.
Well, they had shotguns.
Remember, I've been able to buy Benelli shotguns nonstop, the entire time. So that is a thing that the name has been kind of doing what it was doing back then too. But they never sold off their motorcycle division. They just gave up on it, And it's a little different story than the Triumph story. It's a little bit of a different story than the Indian story, where it was a lot of label marketing going on there. So yeah, it is a totally different. We got to watch Segway
until somebody buys the Victory name from Polaris.
No, I don't. And honestly, again, I don't think for a second Polaris is going to let that go. They'll pay for that website forever.
From what I recall reading, the only reason Polaris got rid of Victory is because they didn't want Victory and Indian competing with each other. Because there were still. I see people. I think I see more people in like Victory T-shirts and jackets than I do in Indian T-shirts and jackets.
Because when they went out of business, that shit was cheap. Americans are all about a cheap jacket.
I'm all about the Tomos 2-watt.
The Tomos 2-watt. 2-watt.
I'm really disappointed that it didn't work out for them when Tomos tried to bring back their moped. Because I rode their new line of mopeds when it came out. They had the one that looked like the Grom.
Yeah.
And except there was nothing happening below.
There was nothing underneath it.
There was nothing. There was just a space where the Grom motor would be. Instead there was this little 50cc.
Why are Harley Davidsons so expensive?
Because they can be.
But obviously they can't be.
No, you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. But that's the thinking. The prevailing thinking is that because they can be.
Not for long.
No, you're exactly right. So I think the idea of a $13,000 new Softail when the platform's only 3-4 model years old, that's a really good idea.
Look,
that's
when you
really
pay your bills and you got a motor out, whether it's the 88 got stuff and everything, the 103, 108, and all the way up to the all the way up to the Milwaukee 8. The point is, you paid for everything. You paid for the tooling. You paid for the dies. You paid for the metal. You paid for the fucking motor.
It's like a checker.
It's a checker. It's all paid for. So what do you do now? Well, what you do now is you find other things to put it in. Nick, elephant in the room, Chinese carburetor for your van? Mm-hmm. Right on. So rather than rebuilding ein carburetor...
Well, I broke it.
You broke the Chinese...
I broke the original.
I wouldn't say broke it. I thought I broke it. Didn't I drop it?
Oh, no. This is a different... No.
Okay, all right.
I would say...
No, that's death by ethanol.
Yeah, well, I'd say 40 years broke.
No, I also snapped off one of the mounts
for the float hinge.
Yeah, that's done.
One float hinge, two float hinges.
Honestly, though, that thing looks pretty fucking bad. So the new carburetor set you back how many Freedom units?
$22.
$22.
Free.
Was that on Amazon or was that on Banggood or was that on
Amazon?
It's a load too. It's heavy. That's a heavy carburetor.
Wish.
I mean,
it's made of heavy.
It says Agbawa on the side.
I love that does it have a My Kimi logo?
No, it does not.
It does not.
It does not. It does look pretty similar.
Oh, it's very similar. In fact, I tell you, I don't know how many billions of those you'd have to make to actually achieve cost effectiveness, because there's a lot of holes in that carburetor. Yeah. And there's a lot of machining that goes into making that carburetor and casting that goes into that carburetor.
What millimeter is that?
Old internal holes.
Yeah, $22, right?
Because the thing is, though, is that they're promoting these carburetors for so many different bikes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Is this one in particular says it is specifically made and jetted for Suzuki RV90 1971 to whatever.
Right. I'm sure it is.
Because you know what? The word universal is never your friend.
Yep. Yeah. Because the same one I bought that I didn't use for my Grimm was a 24 millimeter carburetor that said it also fit every motor from 90 to 200 cc's, 2-stroke to 4-stroke. It didn't matter what it was.
It was the universal
and it came with a pack of jets that let you jet whatever it was to be, right.
I couldn't buy the jets alone for what you paid for the carburetor.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the way it is heavy. Boy, it's got a lot of fucking gravity, doesn't it?
Yep. That's what I thought.
Jesus Christ. I think this might not be cast. I think this might be lead. I think this might actually be a lead carburetor. Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy.
Like it.
That is remarkably fucking heavy. I honestly think that.
It's not like pot metal.
No, it's not like pot metal.
It's like
not unless it's iron skillet metal.
It's like
this is actually as heavy as an iron skillet.
So I did take it apart, and the slide in that does fit in the old carburetor. I looked at some other stuff. This one had brass floats, obviously. That one has plastic.
The slide's made of mercury. Yeah, clearly. Damn, man. Okay, that is heavier than it should be, for sure.
This is also metal that was a mine from Fukushima.
It was.
So enjoy
It's exactly right.
Everybody turn the lights out.
And thanks, I just touched it. And we thought the coronavirus was going to be the worst thing we got tonight at the podcast.
I do have a Geiger
Our fucking mortgage company called us. They said we can lose a percentage point on our interest rate on our mortgage because the markets took such a shit from coronavirus.
Oh, that's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
I bought
and the guy told me that. I said,
I've been buying the market right now.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. I made 3% today.
Wow. Holy shit.
Let's talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
We need to talk to you tomorrow.
So is
too late tomorrow.
Anybody else got anything for this wonderful, rollicking 3-hour podcast?
Oh, man.
Nah, it's only 2 hours and 40 minutes.
No, but it was very informative.
It was for a minute. All right.
It was good. We created a new race of people.
We did.
I'm sorry.
The Loompas.
The Loompas.
The Loompas.
The Loompa Americans.
The Loompas. The Loompa Americans. The Loompa Americans.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
And their official leader, head Loompa American.
Right.
Exactly.
We need to give them a day.
Loompa Day.
I don't think they deserve a month, but I think
they should have
a day at least.
There should be a Loompa Appreciation Day.
They've made chocolate enough for that, like
February 29th.
February 29th.
Oh, yeah.
So it's every 4 years.
Every 4 years
That's a
they get
shitty
this.
thing to do.
Well, they're only this big. They're only this big. So.
You've heard of Elf on a Shelf? Yeah. I want Loompa on a Roomba.
Loompa on a Roomba.
And with that, folks, ride fast and take chances. Ba, 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 ba.